Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another pair of rounds of absolutely epic racing action in the Skip Barber Community Trophy Season 5, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing, and proudly sponsored by both Musical Money Limited and the Old Git Racing Team. It is time for round 17 and 18 of the championship, and we have made our way all the way over to the west coast for the Californian Street Circuit of Long Beach, also known as the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach and its modern title form. A circuit opened in 1975 and originally seen as a means of trying to bring the spectacle of motorsport to the city streets of Long Beach, all the way back in that time, of course, by none other than the British promoter of Chris Pook. It is a circuit that's gradually evolved over its extensive history, but one thing that's always stayed the same, that ever since opening its doors to international motorsport, it has never closed them. A scene of Formula 1 Grand Prix, and indeed IndyCar and the IMSA SportsCar Championship, is a circuit that many would liken to America's own equivalent of what would be the Monaco Street Circuit all the way on the European continent. However, unlike Monaco, where overtaking is nigh on impossible, around here overtaking is highly possible given its mixture of extended straights, but also its corner sequences, which always present drivers with the risk versus reward factor. Do you go all in for a potential move, or do you just hold back that little bit and wait for the straights, and then the time will gradually run out as the race goes on? And it's that balancing act which our drivers will need to achieve well today if they want to come away from here victorious, with the looming threats of the walls always around them as well, and those tyre barriers which protrude. Well, there's never quite like the risk here at Long Beach, albeit with the scenic view as well of the palm trees, the convention centre and the fountain. It's very easy to be bemused and become a sightseer when you're out of the circuit. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast from Circuit Side as you tune in tonight on the one and only place you can catch all this weekly racing action in the Skip Barber Community Trophy Championship, and as of course on YouTube at Walsh Productions. Go to youtube.com and search for Walsh Productions or PWP, and you can subscribe to the channel and catch all the racing on a weekly basis there, and you won't want to miss a beat because it's been an incredible season so far. And as we bring our tour of the US of A to a close today, well, we have still got a few rounds to go, 8 remaining, and everything is still wide open to questions, no doubt. But in terms of our schedule for tonight, and times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC. Well, what we can see in approximately what will be 30 minutes time, we'll have our 10-minute qualifying session, as we always do, with all of our drivers out there looking to go for gold, after which they'll make their way to the grid for the first of 2 races today, starting with the round 17 sprint. That'll be 20 minutes in duration, after which we'll be taking a brief breather, and approximately what will be around 20 past 8 this evening, we make our way to the grid once again for the 30-minute feature, and that'll be round number 18. It will bring our tour of the USA to a close. We've made our way from the east coast all the way over to the west coast, and after that Australia will await us, but also we may have a clearer picture exactly how things will be set with only 6 rounds remaining after today. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look back in time and take a look at how things have proceeded coming out of rounds 15 and 16. So last time out, of course, we were at none other than what was the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course. The madness, as some would refer to some of its corners, definitely played out over the course of the racing there on the 8th of February. But who exactly were the winners? Well, pole position went the way of none other than Adam Miles, who was able to sneak into pole position right at the death of the session in the 10-minute open session, delivering well, starting on pole in round number 15, and he led every lap of the race, and he was giving it everything he's admitted in his post-round interview to stay ahead of his rivals, with Marcus Byfeldt and Steff Herrmann both playing relatively compliant, however also rather much looking forward to major points coming their way at the end of the race, and in 9 it was all to play for in what was the feature race that followed. Because in round number 16 what we got to see there is it was Daniel Otuga who took the victory after an incident in the sprint race which relegated him all the way down outside of the top 15 inversion for the purposes going through the grid, where he went from 16th to 1st, and what a drive it was. He carved his way through the field. Some opening lap incidents also assisted him on his adventure, but the main thing was he had to get the job done, and in the end he fought with Marcus Byfeldt over the final 6 laps for the win, but he made sure that it was just between those two, as meanwhile Adam Miles and Nathan Wade kept exchanging blows with each other, and they could never quite get truly involved. But what it means is, of course, that race has seen Daniel Otuga still wasting points from Adam Miles, and also we've got to see Marcus Byfeldt up there once again, and also what was several other drivers pushing on, and that really has changed the nature of the championship as we make our way now into the final 8 rounds, and well, we'll see those very shortly, because after today we'll make our way to Australia for what will be a triple header to complete the season. Or do we say what would be a septuple header, given the fact we would have 6 rounds of racing there? Well, I'll leave that up to you to decide. But I'll tell you one thing, next time out in rounds 19 and 20, we'll have the delight of the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit on the Ventnor Island, and on the 22nd of February, that's where we'll be. But as we come into this round, keep in mind on the qualifying format that we'll see that on the very right-hand side of the table on screen, we are going to have a 3-lap closed format. It'll be the penultimate one of those. Indeed, we now oscillate between 3-lap closed and 1-lap shootout all the way to the very end of the season, and these are going to feel like the most pressurised qualifying sessions of them all. But as we now take a look at the standings, how exactly do they stand coming into this round? Well, firstly, we do see in the top 15, Steff Herrmann leads on 518 points, 104 ahead of Marcus Byfeldt. Now, the real complexion here is the fact that Steff Herrmann right now does not need to win races if he wants to win this championship. He has really taken the approach with only 1 win this season that if he keeps accruing podiums and top 5 finishes, he can naturally win the championship by default. Now, there are 4 drop score rounds, if my memory serves me correctly, and what I've got in my notes here, and those 4 drop score rounds will gradually play an increasing role in how these points will play out. But when he does have right now a 104-point advantage over the rest of the field, you can understand if his confidence is really starting to brew. Remember, he's never taken the championship crown in this series. He has come close, but he's never quite done it. But right now, the German driver is inching closer and closer. And after what was a 3rd and a 5th last time out, he feels like if he can repeat that again today, he will continue to lead the way. In second is Marcus Byfeldt on 414 points. He is holding on just about versus Adam Miles as the tidal wave of the British driver right now looks trying to overcome the Swede, and he is now within 4 points distance of Adam Miles, now having 3 pole positions, 4 wins and 9 podiums. Indeed, Miles' record is absolutely something to be believed, but right now he's still trying to knock down on the door of Marcus Byfeldt as those two look to go toe-to-toe. And for Byfeldt, it was 2 second-place finishes last time out. His consistency is absolutely critical. Now, for Adam Miles, sat in 3rd on 410 points. He's chasing back-to-back wins, and that's his target for today, and he's looking forward to going racing at Long Beach Street Circuit, but he's also picking up plenty of bonus points, given the fact he's done plenty of clean races, and also one of the cleanest drivers on the grid, without a doubt. We do then have Daniel Otuga on 350 points, and how he's proceeding is in the fact that when he's in form and things go right, he does take those victories and takes the points, and the points he takes are away from the top 3, and that's why critically Steff Herrmann right now is not worried, because Daniel Otuga and other drivers are continuing to put a thorn in the side of Byfeldt and Miles. You could say the same for Brian Kelly, but on home soil this season, it's not quite worked out as much as the American driver would like, and on 334 points, he now is at risk of potentially falling backwards towards what we 6th onwards, because Jeff Randall sits there in 6th place on 315 points, and last time it was not around to be remembered in some respects, particularly when it all went wrong in the feature race. However, he continues to keep his consistency out on circuit, a key trait of his, at the priority, and therefore we'll wonder if we'll see him bounce back. If not, well, there's a sizable gap now. The best part there of what is almost 80 points, or to be a bit more specific, none other than what would be 69 points to Nathan Wade, who sits there in 7th place. And right now, the British driver, after having a bit of a probe and poke at what was Adam Miles in the feature race at Mid-Ohio, he's definitely looking to be right back up there in the podium place hunt, and therefore we look forward to seeing whether he can break away a little bit more from Gordon van den Bergen. Van den Bergen sits in 8th place, being on 194 points, 8 ahead of Christopher Garros Jr., and then round off that top 10 is Adam Tompkins. Remco Pleister sits in 11th, creeping towards the top 10 little by little, only ahead of George Mattock based on result count back here, and then we do see Titus de Jong, Peter Suapanki and Chris Wayne completing that top 15. But do watch out for those 5 drivers, because they've all been building momentum, particularly George Mattock, who last time out, he definitely started to look at those top 5s on a regular basis, and it's been incredible to see how as the season has gone on, he's shaken off the rust and he's built up the pace of the old days, and he's looking to be a major threat. Outside the top 15, from the 105 points of Chris Wayne, we then do have 104 for Dennis Johansson. Sadly, not on the grid today, as I'm to be understood, and well, with regards to why he's not on the grid, it is a personal matter. However, it's a very dear personal matter to him, which is that unfortunately his dog Holly, and I think he'll be okay with us sharing this because he shared it with the community, his dog Holly does have cancer surgery, and therefore he won't be leaving the side of his dog whatsoever, and well, he'll be watching, and I do hope, Dennis, if you're there right now, that Holly's doing okay and that you're doing okay, and the two of you are absolutely happy together. I can tell you one thing, there's nothing quite like having your dog by your side. They do say a dog is man's best friend, and I 100% agree with that. But Dennis Johansson, of course, will be sorely missed on the grid today, because he definitely is one of the big stars out there, giving it his all, week in, week out, and I'll tell you one thing, well, it didn't quite go right at Mid-Ohio, but when we do see him back on the grid, I'm sure he's going to be absolutely full of beans, looking to go for wins once again. Josephine Becker sits in 17th on 76 points, earmarking the next group in the field, with Kevin Budgeon only 4 points behind. Then we have Neil Gardner and Martin van Ikkelen rounding off that top 20, with Jesus Cabal in 21st place, 1 point ahead of both Simon Wareham and Marcus Dorner, and it's a further 6 to Tom Payne. Tim Hendrickson, the Dutchman there, lightning quick, no doubt about it. He sits in 25th, ahead of Christian Perez, and we do have Arjen de Vries, who made his way onto the grid for the first time last time out, and goodness me, was he incredible, and we absolutely loved speaking to Arjen after what was all the racing, and heard from him the fact that he enjoyed himself 100%, and he'll be on the grid as much as he can be. Well, he is back here today, as far as I'm aware, and we look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do. We also do see Ludwig Sau there in 28th, ahead of Miguel Cuisina Martin, and then Frankie D completes the top 30, and for Frankie D, you've got to feel for him, because last time out, he was on the cusp of his first ever top 10, and it all slipped out of his hands right at the end of the sprint race when it was looking so good, and we do hope we get to see Frankie take his first top 10 at some point, because he's been pushing so hard for it this season, and he's holding on to the top 30 by a hair. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's the scene set regards to standings. Let's talk about our host circuit for today. It is the Grand Prix layout of Long Beach Street Circuit. There's only ever been one layout here, but it has gradually evolved over time. Located in downtown Long Beach in Los Angeles County of the US state of California. And a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just their brilliant simulator, but the fantastic track maps that come with it. Now, this circuit, 1.96 miles in length, it is a short circuit, even though it may look long. The shortness is down to the fact all the corners are clustered together. The length, or the apparent length, is the incredibly long start-finish straight, which runs along the waterfront, absolutely lined with palm trees, and also the extended back stretch. But as we marry it all together, well, this is not a flat circuit either, because as our drivers make the way down the start-finish straight, they'll quickly find their way in towards the open left-hand right-angle corner of turn number 1. It'll be on the flat all the way through the opening few quarters as they make the way from turn 1 in towards the fountain sequence. Introduced in the 1990s as a diversionary route when the layout of the city was changed, and as they make their way through the fountain, they won't have time to stop and look at the water feature, and it'll be very tight through there as well, so too wide is not recommended unless you're feeling brave. Out of there, it'll into the sweeping right hand of the turns 4 and 5, and that's where we'll see our drivers briefly go uphill through turn number 5 before making the way on the short stretch up towards turns 6 and 7, the double left apex. There they'll go up a rise and down into a downhill braking zone for turn number 8, where there, understeer and off camber will go hand in hand to see our drivers potentially make the way towards a tyre barrier. But if not, and if they get it right, they'll power their way onto the back stretch and make the way in towards turns 9, 10 and 11. Turn number 9, a conventional right-hand right-angle corner, where they make the way through the sweeping left-hander of turn number 10 and brake hard into the infamous hairpin of turn number 11, where through there, going too wide is tantamount to disaster if you're on the outside. Just because the steering locks of these skippies, they are good, but they're not good enough given the fact it is a complete 180-degree reversal corner, and it is very tight on corner exit. So hopefully, we don't see too many go for a fight there. But a quick reminder of the rules before we do go racing. As always, this is an open setup series where drivers are having a setup of their choosing, which they bring to each and every race session. Car fuel loads will be restricted to 47% for all race day sessions. And meanwhile, with regards to our qualifying session today, a reminder of what free lap close means. It means that the session itself is closed, or therefore all the drivers go out to an isolated instance of the circuit where they are alone. They don't have anybody else around them, and therefore they have the opportunity to put in solid laps by themselves. So there's no slipstream in effect. Each driver's fastest lap out of the 3 available, excluding the out lap, shall set their grid positions for the sprint race, but they must get their laps done within the 10-minute time limit. They do not have overtime in the session, it should be pointed out. Now, as for our races, they shall commence by a standing start, as is the tradition of this series, with 1 fast pair available in each race. A drive-through penalty shall be awarded at 17 instant points. Should they get to 21, our drivers will be disqualified. And how we set the grid for the feature race is we take the finisher positions of the sprint race and we invert the top 15. So that means, in layman's terms, whoever wins the sprint race, or round number 17 today, they start on what is 15th place for round number 18. Meanwhile, we continue that inversion down to the 15th place finisher, and, well, they will be starting on pole position for round number 18. As for those who finished 16th and downwards in round 17, they will be starting exactly where they finished in that sprint race. There is one mandatory pit stop for the feature race, and that's where drivers must take on fuel. No tyres are expected to be changed, and that's enough rules and regulation, ladies and gentlemen. We don't want to bore you with all that. We want to keep you entertained with plenty of racing action, and as we make our way back to circuit side, we are not too far away from going into that qualifying session. 1.5 minutes left on the clock, and what we do currently have 20 drivers here today, and we do have a newcomer on the grid in the number 63, representing a similar livery there to none other than what is, I do believe, Christopher Garris Jr. and also Marcus Byfeldt, but he is an individual. It is none other your number 63 driver new to the grid today of Christopher Crook, and we look forward to seeing how he gets on, and we give him a big warm welcome to the grid in his machinery, and we'll wish him all the best luck on his debut. But guys, everyone else you see here is a driver who's been on the grid so far at some point this season, albeit we do have no lap set currently from Dave Delson. That's why you see 19 drivers on the practice time tower, but we do have Delson here make his way on around as well, looking to try and get a lap on the board before he goes into the qualifying session. But as he does so, we say hello to a few of you in the YouTube chat, in particular to Mr. Johns, who says, I'm here and waiting. Indeed, he got in pole position with regards to getting into the YouTube chat first and foremost. And I hope you're doing well, good sir. And if you are tuning in right now, anyone out there, and you do have access to the YouTube chat, and perhaps you're feeling a little bit shy, don't feel shy. Feel free to say hi, because we don't bite here at the Skip Barber Community Trophy, nor on these broadcasts. The only biting you will see is if somebody locks up their brakes, and you'll definitely hear about it. But as we all get set then, well, we'll talk a little bit about what we can expect in qualifying. We do go into the session, the importance of qualifying, but it's a lovely scenic day here today at this circuit. And well, clear skies, abundantly clear skies, a track temperature, however, of 48 degrees centigrade. That is piping hot, and these tyres right now, ooh, as that goes towards, so does the car behind Delson and Crook, both getting it wrong. And I was going to say, this track surface is not going to offer anywhere near as much grip as previous rounds because of how hot it is. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, who is going to be going from the frying pan and into the oven here at Long Beach, and who is going to come out on top trumps? Well, it's about to find out, because it is time for qualifying. And so the clock starts to tick away for this qualifying session, and here we go. 10 minutes, 3-lap close. So all the drivers will make their way out there by themselves. They won't have anyone to work with today, or any expectation of the slipstream, or any risk of being impeded. And this session, of course, perhaps being favourable for some drivers compared to others. Now, if my memory serves me correctly, Nathan Wade, in his post-round interview last time out, did mention that he's not the biggest of fans of the 10-minute open session. Now, all these different qualifying sessions, of course, are there to tax and vex our drivers. The idea being, if we had one qualifying format all the way through the season, yes, it would be standardised, but also it would lack some variety, and also it may mean that we start to get into a room as to who qualifies well, apart from when we get to circuits where some drivers struggle compared to others. But do keep in mind, of course, most of the circuits you have seen this season have been staples of the Skip Barber Community Trophy calendar all the way back since Season 1, and also regulars in the iRacing officials which run alongside this. Indeed, many of these drivers you see on the grid here are some of the superstars of the official series, and well, understandably, as Nathan Wade right now, don't worry, he's not got a problem with the car. He's just designed to get his tyres as warm as humanly possible. They do take a little bit of effort to warm up, even with a boiling hot track surface on which you could potentially cook an egg. Whereas Wade makes his way on over, he wants those tyres piping hot for probably what will be 1 or 2 laps, and I wouldn't be surprised here if his mantra will be, you get 1 banker lap and it's all or nothing on lap number 2, and after that forget lap number 3, it's probably not worth it. Whereas Wade makes his way around, how exactly important will qualifying be? Well, the answer to that is it's going to be relatively important. Now, if we were racing, say, GT3 machines or even sports car prototypes, which of course are raced here on an annual basis in the IMSA SportsCar Championship, you would say that qualifying is going to be absolutely critical. It's very hard to overtake in wide machines. In these skippies, given how narrow they are, it is still tough to overtake around here. You don't want to go too wide unless you have full commitment into a braking zone, and also you have the trust of the other driver. However, overtaking is possible around here because of the narrow nature of these cars, but there are places you do go for an overtake and places you perhaps do not go for an overtake. For example, down the back straight here towards turn number 9, you definitely want to use it here. Meanwhile, turn number 11, the final corner, the hairpin, not a recommended place if you are on the outside. Conversely, turns 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, they are potential overtaking opportunity areas so long as you're fully alongside your rival. Diving into those places will be heavily frowned upon by the stewards if it does result on an instant. And also turn 6 and also 8 are good overtaking opportunities. As we see Frankie D drifting his way there through turn number 10 in towards 11, the car sliding around there. And well, it's definitely in nature whereby I think many of our drivers will be referring to this circuit today as the ice rink of California. Given how slippery it is, that does sound contradictory when you consider how hot it is, but the reason they call it an ice rink is the idea you have zero grip, you are driving on metaphorical ice. Whereas D makes way across that timeline right now, going on to his first flying lap. Well, we look forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do here. Indeed, right now, all the drivers very keen, but we do know the man who normally is the pole sitter in these sessions is Adam Miles. He really is the king of the 1 lap, and indeed, he is a multiple-time champion of this series. He's a 2-time champion from seasons 2 and 3. He's looking to try and make it a 3rd title. because the Hall of Fame, of course, he's the most highly decorated driver in this series, and those were a single title to their name. Nathan Wade from season 1, the legendary season where it did come down to Adam Miles versus Nathan Wade all the way to the very end, and also in season 4, our previous season, Dennis Johansson not on the grid today, but of course he was on the grid at the season opener at Brands Hatch, and we carried on that momentum, but it hasn't quite gone that way ever since. But that's the way it goes in this series, and I do wonder whether we will be seeing a new name become a champion at the end of the season. And if so, would be Steff Herrmann right now, who seems to be the favourite for it. But as we do see Miles making his way on through, some lap times have started to come in. We do see the Raging Turtle racing machine there of Corpalacia on a 33.132, but then Nathan Wade extends it to a 33.060. But then from him, what's Jeff Randall up to right now? And the answer to that is he's making his way on down the back straight at the moment. He's still got a bit more time to go. Barber drives out there right now looking for that first lap time. Tom Payne, of course, in the Tom Payne special livery machine. I love this livery, I can tell you that. I love all the liveries of the cars, to be fair, but this really does give me the vibe of the 80s and early 90s era Formula 1 cars, and I think that's definitely what he's going for, though. I do believe it was the Lotus, which of course Ayrton Senna drove, that was in these very similar colours, and it did have the John Player special advertisement on the side. And well, not quite a fake, was John Player special cigarettes by chance, ladies and gentlemen? I wonder if one of you can inform me. Not that I am a smoker, but indeed it does sound as though it's the akin to Marlboro of the era. But as Payne makes his way around, well, right now not quite got a valid lap on the board so far, so he's got a bit more work to do. But without further ado, this man's been in the hot seat so far this season, so let's ride on board with him and see how quick he's going to make his way around. We jump on board with none other than George Mattock as he takes us around for a flying lap of the Long Beach Street Circuit. So down towards turn 1 he goes. He's gone third on his first line lap, so this one should be even quicker from 33.043. Where can he go next? Loses right inside, coming down into the braking zone. 116 miles an hour. Hard on the brakes at the 100 metre board. Trail braking in. We briefly lose him, but then he reappears. Now in towards the fountain section he goes. Straight lines his way in through 2, and now sharp to the right for 3. Letting the car roll out a little bit deep there, and now into 4. At this point, holding second gear all the way and around, and as he does so, coming up towards turn number 5. Well, here it's going to be a bump over the curb. You've got to go over it there to cut the corner, but of course it unsettles the car, so you've got to be very careful with steering input and throttle. But now, brief breather before he gets into turn 6 and 7. Looks his right hand side for the 200-yard board. Onto the brakes, down to second gear. Nice early apex there. You want to clip the curb, and now make his way over the crest and down towards 8. He brings the car to the left-hand side to open up turn number 8. Braking at the 200-yard board. Cut the corner as much as you possibly can. Care for the exit wall. And now powering his way along there with a little bit of power oversteer, but he powered through it. And now down towards turn number 9. On the back straight, he gets another bit of a breather, but now for George Mattock, he's looking to his left. He'll look for the boards. It will be the 300-yard board. There he goes onto the brakes, dropping down to second gear, and now just tiptoeing his way out to turn number 9. Bring the car to the middle road for turn number 10, and here, just hold the throttle about 70%. Keep the car full lock, and now hard on the brakes here, coming down in towards the hairpin, and there you can see how tight it is, having to apply full steering lock to get the car around the corner. And now George Mattock powering his way to the timing line, and what's it going to be this time around? He is on a personal best, albeit his Sector 1 was not anything to shout home about, but his Sector 2 and 3 definitely were, and as he comes on through, it's an difference of 32.961, but he stays fourth there with Mark Beckhouse just jumping ahead of him. So Beckhouse right now getting a little bit more pace on the board, and well, I think for Mattock, he might have one more shot at this. Understandably, has he used up all the tyres, or has he got a bit more to go? Because these tyres do last a long period of time, but there always is that peak freshness period, or that peak optimum nature of them, and it normally is the first couple laps in such a qualifying session. But it's no surprise, perhaps Adam Miles is currently the fastest out there by 2 tenths. However, do keep in mind right now, he'll not be taking anything for granted, and that's why, with his final lap coming to a close, Nathan Wade gets within a tenth of him at 32.504. These lap times right now getting absolutely incredible. Despite the conditions, we are into the mid-32s. Can Miles go even quicker? He has set a purple Sector 3. His Sector 4 he's coming to the end of. His Sector 2 has been a personal best. Purple is Sector 2 for George Mattock. And as Miles crosses the line, the answer is going to be, it's a 31.943. My good Lord, Adam. That's absolutely monstrous there. If anybody's able to respond to that, well, I'll be. But right now, Adam Miles absolutely flying high. And here comes Daniel Otuga across the line. And as he does so, he does not improve. Meanwhile, Frankie D goes 6th. Could a top 10 for the first time this season be on the cards for D in the race, because that will be his first top 10 start today if this lands right now without anybody else improving significantly. Mark Beckhouse improves but holds third. Jeff Randall jumps up to 5th on a 32.783. That's definitely a bit of a resurrection of form. It has been a bit of a struggle over the last couple of rounds for Jeff Randall, both in qualifying and the races, but not always his fault, to be fair. And as he brings it down to a halt, well, what else is going on? George Mattock dethrones him back to 6th. Mattock crossing the line there. We've still got 2 minutes left on the clock. We've still got some drivers yet to complete their laps. I think Frankie D starting inside us top 10, ladies and gentlemen, because right now it's Arjen de Vries who is looking to find a bit more pace. He's currently the whole best part of what is 2/10 off of the top 10. Gordon van den Bergen will be his target man. This is not looking right now for what is De Vries. As meanwhile, Marcus Byfeldt now jumps up to 7th place, the 32.843. So a respectable lap there from the Swedish driver in the 105. Who else is still to go? Well, De Vries and also Miguel Cristina, as we do see him make his way on down in the wonderful number 19, the Silver Bullet Machine. As he makes his way on across that line, what's he going to be? And the answer is he improves to 11th. So 33.111. What about De Vries? He comes across the line as well. And he, in the end, does not improve. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be qualifying. Because Simon Wareham has not got a lap in. Christopher Crook has not got a lap in. What about Klaus Biedermann? Well, the coffee bean machine is definitely going to get a lap in here. He's not on the timer right now. As we do show you all the drivers up on that timing tower. And, well, you can see there those who've not got laps in. And that's why things have gone a little bit wrong. As he runs a bit too wide as Biedermann hits the exit wall. But he hits it flat. He'll get away with it once. He won't keep getting away with it, however, because the suspension rods of these cars, they can take a little bit of a knock, but not too big of one. And in fact, he immediately crosses the line there and parks up the car. And, well, with that contact, so it's invalidated the lap. And for Klaus Biedermann, this has not been a qualifying session to be remembered. So in the end, qualifying is effectively complete, ladies and gentlemen. Now we are seeing out the time. And on pole position, it's Adam Miles continuing his run of pole positions for this season in qualifying sessions. He's ahead of Nathan Wade by almost 6/10 there. My goodness, Adam Miles absolutely demolishing the field, and the only driver to set up 31. But of course, qualifying is qualifying. The race is the race, and the race is where all the points really will be made. Although Miles will be taking the bonus points for pole position. And, well, Nathan Wade and Mark Beckhouse so close together. 28,000 separating them for second place. And then it was a further 10th back to Daniel Otuga. And, well, that theme of closest really runs all the way through from George Mattet then, all the way down to 14th place Arjen de Vries, who did struggle a little bit in qualifying after his debut last time out. Things have not quite gone the way he's wanted. As meanwhile, we're seeing here comes the timeline. His qualifying session is complete. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to make our way to the grid to see how they all line up for race number 1. So onto the grid they all go, and as they do, this is how they'll all line up for the first time today. Round number 17, we'll see Adam Miles take pole position, the privateer, ahead of Nathan Wade. Behind them on row number 2, it's going to be Mark Beckhouse with one of his best qualifying points of the season, starting third ahead of Daniel Otuga. The Swede will be hoping for a much more straightforward day today. He always seems to have a difficult day when he qualifies well. George Mattock starts in 5th place, one of his best performances of the season. Can he now add to it in the race? He's in the company of Jeff Randall alongside the Old Git Racing team. And on row number 4, it's going to be Marcus Byfeldt, the privateer, ahead of Frankie D, who takes his first qualifying top 10 of the season. Well done to Frankie. Now, surely this time he's got to be able to convert it into a top 10 finish. The American on home soil, meanwhile, will be followed up by the Dutchman, Titus de Jong, and the Raging Turtle Racing driver will have the company of Christopher Gerris Jr., who completes that top 10. Outside the top 10, in 11th, is going to be Miguel Cristina, who starts 11th for the Spaniard, just ahead of the German driver of Gordon van den Bergen. The second head of Racing Machine will be followed up by Raging Turtle Racing's Rem Corpolosia, and it'll be an all-Dutch row number 7 with Arjen de Vries in 14th place. Kevin Budgen starts 15th. Now he's got a lot of work to do from there, ahead of Peter Suapanki for the Old Git Racing team, and behind the Lucky 7 machine, it's going to be Tom Payne in 17th ahead of Dave Dawson. Then we do see, round off your top 20, Klaus Biedermann, the Portuguese driver, ahead of Simon Wareham. No lap to their names, nor was there a valid lap to Christopher Crook, who starts 21st on his debut from the back of the field. But to be fair, starting from the back doesn't mean you're going to finish at the back, and we have seen that plenty of times this season, ladies and gentlemen. So there's our 21 car lineup. They're all almost in position on the grid, and well, with that, we're only waiting for 1 or 2 cars, including Jeff Randall, and once he's in position, we will be starting the light sequence. And I can promise you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be tight here today at the Long Beach Street Circuit, and we are all here for it. So the grid is set, here come the lights. The revs rise, it's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's firing lights! And it's lights out, and away we go for our first race of the day. Round 17 unfolds, and as it does so, Adam Miles there gets a decent start as everyone immediately tucks into his toe as they head down towards turn number 1. But a little bit out of sequence there for a couple of drives. Perhaps Daniel Otuga getting the better start compared to Mark Beckhouse, and immediately thinking about going up the inside here, using the side draft. So Miles and Wade here might be separate, but as they head into the braking zone, who's going to get it right here on cold tyres? It's going to be a bit of a scramble further back. They've got to be careful on the exit to make sure they don't slide loose into the fountain. As they do, we see Daniel Otuga there, now up into third, ahead of Mark Beckhouse out to the exit of turn number 1, but they're all safely through the opening few quarters. But further back, we've got a bit of battling going on here, as we do see what is Rem Corpolosia holding off De Vries, and meanwhile, Tom Payne falls behind Christopher Crook. What did we say earlier? Just because Crook starts at the back of the field doesn't mean that he's going to be finished at the back of it. He's already up 4 places. A brilliant start for Crook in the 63, up to 17th, and now his next target will be Peter Suapanki. But back to your lead as they come past our cameras at turns 6 and 7. And as we can see there, Adam Miles really open up the corners already. Meanwhile, Nathan Wade much more conservative lines. But we can see also what is the lightning machine of Miguel Crisena. I do believe the livery he's running there is actually a tribute to American aircraft designs of the Second World War, or at least the liveries they were put in, with what is the razor sharp teeth on the front. Reminds me of a P-40 Kitty Hawk, if anyone remembers those, if they're astute with World War II planes. But as he does make his way out right now, he's not going to be using Browning machine guns. He's going to be using hard horsepower to try and get the job done. We're going through turn 10 up towards 11. Into the braking zone now, everyone into the hairpin, and this time around they all constantly together a little bit close there. You can see Gordon van der Bergen getting close to the barrier, and well, just about surviving it as me. Well, Klaus Biedermann's had a little bit of a poor run out the corner. He's going to fall further back. But after one lap of racing, it's Adam Miles who leads on to lap number 2 ahead of Nathan Wade. The gap, 2.5 tenths and closing as Wade pulls out the toe immediately, and he wants to work with Miles right now. This is classic Miles and Wade strategy here, where these two, they're not teammates, but they both want this fight to be just between them. And then we do have Daniel Otuga in third. Mark Beckhouse, meanwhile, clearing away from Randall. He gets ahead of George Mattock. And Mattock having a bit of a poor run through turn of 1. Randall retakes 5th place, and now making the way up towards what will be that right-hander at turn number 4. Mattock there, ahead of Marcus Byfeldt. Then it's Frankie D, currently holding on to 8th place. And right now, the American driver doing everything he can to make sure he doesn't lose any ground. He wants to gain some if he can. Garros Jr. is 9th, ahead of Titus de Jong, who completes that top 10. Best the rest in 11th, it is Miguel Crisena. The Spaniard right now, he's not really gained or lost anything, but he is pulling away a little bit from van der Bergen, who got so close to that wall coming out of the hairpin. And well, understanding right now, even through the apex there, I think it was a brush with the curb, quite a high one. And well, he's got to be very careful to actually go too high on that curb, and suddenly can send the car on around. But what we can see here is Christopher Crook right now, and making sure that Peter Suopanki does not find a way through. But Suopanki fighting with him as they make the way onwards now towards turn number 9. Now, we always talk about in these races, of course, the nature of the skippies. You will see the swapping back and forth of places, but drivers have to be very careful of how they do it here, because one brief swap that takes a bit too long and suddenly can open up a sizable gap to the cars in front, and it naturally causes the field to start to split into packs. We have started to see that already with Tom Payne caught up behind Kevin Budgeon, and well, big lock up there, front left brake for what's Crook. Got to be careful on the braking there. On these brakes, of course, they'll be warmed up right now, but they are sensitive to locks. And well, when you do lock up the brake, you have to release it and go a bit deep into the corner. And Crook there, if he goes deep into the hairpin, we may expect him to put it in reverse gear. But Suopanki now using the side draft here to try and make sure he completes this move. Look into the inside. Can the Flying Thing get the job done here in the 777? The answer is yes, no, maybe. And well, he's going to find himself right in the middle of the group in front if he does get this done. But in the end, he doesn't quite. And it's going to be a hold there as me. Well, oh, into the barrier. That is Titus de Jong. De Jong's gone into the barrier there at the fountain. Well, I think he might have been aided on that adventure. Not quite sure how. We will get a replay of that shortly to explain. But it has gone wrong for Titus de Jong. And well, he's having to tow to the pits. And that could be his race all in bits. He might be started for the very back for the next one. And Kevin Budgeon has got a meatball flag. So Budgeon has picked up some damage. I suspect it's related to what's happened to Titus de Jong. And well, normally it does take 2 to tango when an incident happens. And well, understandably, Kevin Budgeon right now might be just trying to survive this lap. The car does look okay, but I suspect for all visually how it's looking, the reality is that car is not going to be looking anywhere near as fine from the driver's view. But as we do look back to George Mattock, chasing afterwards Jeff Randall, well, he has got Marcus Byfeldt looking up the inside, and Byfeldt here needing, of course, more progress. He needs to make up places. In the fact, the second place man in the championship right now, he would be at risk of losing that second place to where's Adam Miles if things were to finish as they currently stand. Right in the back there, George Mattock, who's not given an inch, let alone a mile. Coming out of that corner right now, back onto the straight they go. And in the meantime, we take a look back at what exactly happened to Titus de Jong. Now, this was down in towards turn number 1. The number 90 driver there went all in. Oh, no, he's hit the barrier, and that's caused the damage. And then coming into his corner, he's hit the inside wall into turn number 2 and into the barrier. Well, what exactly has caused problems for Kevin Budgeon then by comparison? Because that's a completely separate incident. We don't have any data to explain what's happened to Kevin Budgeon. So therefore, it might be the fact we need to ask him after the race if we can. But Budgeon definitely picking up damage somewhere. I suspect he's hit a wall, and it hasn't been picked up by our trackside sensors. So therefore, for Kevin Budgeon, it won't be a replay we can get. We can probably shoot something has got rolled for him, but nowhere near as grim as the Titus de Jong there, who accidentally hitting the exit barrier turn number 1, and after that the car damage, and well, then added to that damage significantly, coming all the way through at turns 2 into 3. And by the end of that, I'll tell you one thing right now, he'll be shaken and he will not be stirred to go racing again immediately, and he'll be grateful for the breather whilst the car is being towed and repaired. But as we do look back to your live pictures then, the fight for 10th, Gordon van der Bergen hold off Miguel Crisena as they go through that right-hander right now, and we're looking back. from your 10th place driver at the moment, with the cameras we do have in those rear wings. Well, the Sickhead Racing driver in the number 50 feeling as though he's now in a bit of threat, because Gareth Jr. is 1.5 seconds clear. So understandably now the German driver doesn't really have the distant tow to work with anymore. He's now got to play this out as a pack of cars, with Gareth Jr. towing off of the back of Frankie D. So therefore 8th and 9th are trying to pull away together, and Vandenberger needs to try and work with the guys behind. As you can see, the car snapping loose as Vandenberger goes a bit deep, brushes the exit wall there, and will just not happy with his entry in towards turn number 10. What can he do to fix that, you might be wondering? Well, he might be able to change a little bit of the ride height in the car, or some suspension changes beyond the ride height. But it does seem as though right now when he has to mount those curbs compared to some of his rivals around him, he is not feeling anywhere near as stable. And that is what's causing him to have a compromised line in towards turn number 11. The car essentially is wobbling underneath, and that's not a nice place to be, because when he goes onto the brakes, he's got to be heavier on the brakes to get the rear of the car to stop swinging. It's a pendulum effect. These machines, of course, engine behind the driver, they are very lightweight machines, but even so, when you have a very lightweight car with all the weight behind the driver, it really does become a swing whenever that weight gets transferred, and that's what's happening to Vandenbergen right now as he drifts his way over the apex of turn 5. A lot happier there, but I suspect that's simply because of the fact you're going for essentially a slightly off-camber corner to a flat, whereas you're completely flat going through what is turns 9, 10 and into 11. From him, we look back to Jeff Randall, still keeping George Maddock at bay as these two getting closer and closer towards the halfway point. The Old Kit Racing Team driver right now, he's enjoyed himself, and I do know that as the season has gone on, he's really built up an admiration for how George Maddock has got himself back of the grid and building up the speed. These two have built a bit of a friendly rivalry between them as our leaders make their way past our camera. Then there's third and fourth. Right now, Mattock and Randall definitely push each other along. As Chris Wayne there tuned in says, go faster, Jeff, give you a bit of distant motivation. Indeed, fellow teammate for what is the Old Kit Racing Team. And of course, they all coming through right now. No change between them, although Christopher Crook, to be fair, making another place, overtaking Tom Payne down the run towards turn number 9. As we do see Payne, they go very sideways through turn number 10. Payne, I think they're getting very eager to get back at what was Crook, but in the end, doesn't quite do so. As a brief brush with all there, you saw the sparks come from the rear left tyre of Crook, but in the end, just about avoiding a heavy impact. But here comes Mattock back on Randall now. Will Randall defend this? No, he lets Mattock go back in front and says to the 17 driver, you can have it. Meanwhile, that's not good news for Nathan Wade. He's at a moment of the barrier at turn 1, or something's got it around, although he's able to carry on here. So I wonder if he's had a spin of some description, but that's going to drop him from second into the clutches to fall through to 7th battle. And Nathan Wade right now, well, he's got to have had a spin, because if he'd hit the wall, he would not be going at the rate of knots he is right now. I'm amazed that's still going, but definitely there. We need a bit of a replay to understand what exactly has happened. The good news is we will get one shortly. As Marcus Byfeldt, well, he's trying to battle on the back of Randall and Wade. And for Byfeldt, the problem that he's got as we ride on board here with your 105 privateer is that until he clears these drivers, he is now hemorrhaging points in the championship campaign 2 miles. And well, that momentum may change as Randall there gets a little bit too high in the apex of turn number 8. And now immediately pulls over to the right here. And I think what Randall's trying to do at this point is see what Byfeldt wants to do in return. Does Byfeldt want to try and be quite forceful to get through? And if so, Randall pulling to the right there would perhaps lift and coast into the next braking zone to give Byfeldt the position. Or is Byfeldt just simply playing the game of, no, Jeff, just stay with the guys in front. As far as you do that, I'm not going to be problematic to you. Indeed, it's not a situation whereby they can talk to each other, although we do know teammates are on the radio to each other, but it's definitely one of those situations whereby all these drivers, most of them, have raced with each other for the best part of 3 to 5 years. They're all used to their quirks with each driver, and they all know exactly how to get the most out of the skippy when you're riding together. And the enemy of my enemy is my friend is a saying that really does apply. Meanwhile, Nathan Wade, for everything that went wrong at turn number 1 on the last lap, well, now back at turn number 1, he's back up to full place here. George Mattock plays what is in line with him, and therefore they all comply together. But let's take a trip back in time and find out what exactly happened to Nathan Wade. So this was Wade chasing after Adam Miles. Miles had started to drop him a little bit. The gap there about 6/10. Now into that braking zone he went. I suspect this is a lock-up then. Well, no, not quite a lock-up, but the rear of the car just unloosened itself. I was going to say unsettling itself there, and words got lost in the vocabulary. But Wade, they go completely sideways, getting it back together. So no brush to the wall, just simply the rear of the car stepping out. And for Wade, he got it stopped, had to lock the brakes to get it to stop before it went to the tyre barrier. An uncharacteristic error for Nathan Wade, and in the end slot him right back into the group. swaying around as we do say hello there to Race Driver 777, who's got a smiley face there, and it sounds like you're enjoying yourself, and I hope you are, and it's keeping you smiling all the racing today. Well, we do come back to your live racing, and as we do, well, Tom Payne right now, ooh, that's a brush with the wall there for Payne. He's got to be careful of that. That will drag the car along the wall, and the thing with the impact of these barriers is, yes, if you make contact by default, it's not good, but if you brush a barrier and you are flush to it, like what happened to Tom Payne there, you can also have this effect whereby, as you then try to turn into a corner, particularly at, say, turn number 8, where you've got to be close to the wall regardless, the tyre, as you try to turn it, the tyre actually gets wedged against the wall, and suddenly you straight line along the wall until you can pull the car away from it. It's not easy when that happens, and you've got to be so careful, so as you can go dead onto the braking zone, and well, thankfully, with Payne, that didn't happen. But meanwhile, halfway into the race now, we've still got 9 minutes left of the clock, and now it's becoming swapping season here. As George Bassett looks up the inside, he's going to go 3 wide on the braking. Does he get it done? Yes, he does, but Jeff Randall, he cuts up the inside of 1, he cuts up the inside of 2. It's a lovely switch over. Jeff Randall, there's contact! There's going to be contact between Mattock and Garros Jr. They go, no, not Garros Jr., Marcus Byfeldt, I should say, and the two got hooked on each other at the fountain, and well, in the end, where it's going to be Byfeldt taking a trip through the weeds, and Mattock does the same. They both carry on, they both got damage to the cars, but they both survived it in terms of not picking up a meatball flag, but it's gone wrong there, and well, that's what happens at turn number 2. I think both of them get a little bit excitable. And also perhaps shocked at the fact that Jeff Randall in the end, after being told to go faster by Chris Wade earlier on, well, right now Randall definitely taking that advice, and look at the gap he's pulled already on Nathan Wade, how that's all played out. Randall right now is probably going to be wondering to himself, what on earth happened behind me there? All I did is went for a switchback. I mean, to be fair, Randall going for the switchback of the season in doing that, a 2-for-1 special. You don't normally see that. And as he makes his way down right now in towards turn number 9, well, lovely move there for the 107 driver, but now can he make sure he doesn't pull back into this group? Looking further back, of course, this is the group of Wade, Garros Jr., D, Vandenbergen, Kusena, and also Placier and De Vriend. They are running all the way then from 5th through to 11th. It is a 7-car group, all in contention right now for spots inside that top 10, and all very eager to impress. But down they come towards another lap. And as they do, we take a quick look back at what exactly happened only moments ago in that big instant at the fountain. Well, this was the contact between what was George Mattock and also Marcus Byfeldt. Now, I think Mattock there may have released the brakes, not intentionally to make contact with Byfeldt, but I think what Mattock was trying to do was let the car roll off the racing line. However, unfortunately, the way the cars were positioned in the end, it meant he had the secondary contact with Byfeldt, and a bit of a frustrating match between the two of them. But what exactly happened between the two? Can we get the on board with George Mattock? Yes, we can. So, up the inside he went in the 3 wide, went deep. Wade followed with him. Jeff Randall's going to appear on your left side of your picture. So, Randall gets the place. Mattock braking and contacted there on the rear, and then subsequently into Byfeldt. Now, can we get the look from Byfeldt's car in this instant? Yes, we can. But this was Byfeldt. So, he was number 4 in this. Randall, they're going sideways. Byfeldt thought he could overtake all 3 of them. And on the inside into the braking zone, ooh, goodness me, that's going to be a very difficult one to call for the stewards, because some would say Byfeldt kept his nose in when he shouldn't. Some would say Byfeldt had the right to be alongside. It was very 50-50 there from that camera angle. And again, we only have 1 or 2 camera angles available to us. The stewards have every camera angle available, so therefore we're not going to judge, but definitely a bit of a contentious one. And the thing with the fountain is, if you are going too wide, you have to normally be fully alongside, because otherwise you can lead to moments like that. But Byfeldt will have his opinion on it, so will Mattock, and I'm sure they'll talk about it after the race. But right now, let's come back to the present, and as our drivers make the way on through the hairpin, well, it's definitely getting a little bit closer between them all, and Nathan Wade is now started to pull away. Garros Jr., if anything, now has the problem, which is he's got to lead the pack for 6th place. Powering his way along, Gordon Vandenbergen with him as they make the way on down towards turn 1, and it's going to be the sick-head racing machine that goes up the inside. He does love his fizzy drinks, but can he make it pop right now? As Frankie D, surely he's thinking 3 wide, no way. He thought about it, and in the end, I think Frankie D then realised, and the angel on his shoulder saying, Frankie, we're still chasing the top 10, but it's very close there. That's what 2 wide through into the fountain looks like, and in the end, Vandenbergen loses out, as it's going to be Garros Jr. going defensive, and Frankie D sneaks on through. So the number 14 moves forward at the expense of the number 50, but my good lord, that made my heart skip a beat for a brief moment. I thought we were going to have a repeat of the Byfeldt Mattock incident, and then Frankie tapping the wall there, as meanwhile Vandenbergen are now trying to chase him, and he's going to look up the inside. It's not over yet, as these drivers right now, they're starting to up the tempo with 5 minutes left to go. But Vandenbergen goes deep. Frankie D now cutting back to his inside here, but now put him on the outside for the next braking zone. Here comes Placier, here comes Kusena. Kusena inside, big lock up there for Vandenbergen, and Kusena up the inside immediately. Lovely move, sees the initiative, and Vandenbergen now now has got to try and drag race his way on back, but Place it into Reed. They're all thinking about this. They're all starting to bomb and weave here. We're not on the final lap, gentlemen. What are you doing? You're creating absolutely brilliant race in action, but you do know there's more laps to go. And as they all come in towards turn number 9, well, John de Reed immediately backing off there. I think he's got his smart head on and thinking to himself, as much as I want to get involved, there's no point in doing so. Not when we've still got more laps of this race to go. But goodness me, they're getting very lively in this group. And, well, I think all respect has been given and taken in fair measure. I wouldn't be surprised here if on the next 2 or 3 laps we're going to see even more of it, because we have got 3 more laps to go in race number 1 of the day here at Long Beach. And after this one, of course, we've got another race to go, an extra 10 minutes added onto it. So it's going to be absolutely breathtaking as they make the way down towards turn number 1. And well, right now they're all looking to try and have a scenic show as they roar the way through in the left-hander. But you see all line astern at least for now, and understandably, nobody at this point wants to make a move. I think they all just want to calm down for a little bit. But further back, we haven't really talked about these two for some time, Simon Wareham and Dave Dawson. As Dawson right now still behind Wareham. He's only gained 1 place today so far. Simon Wareham has gained 4, moving from what was 20th to 16th, but they've both enjoyed some gains and right now running together quite happily. Lovely livery on both cars, it must be said. Dawson there, particularly with a livery. I'm not quite sure what the character is he's got on the front of the car. I have to ask him about that after the racing. I get the feeling it might be some sort of celebrity, but going down towards the next braking zone. But they've got Peter Serpanki only 1.5 seconds up the road, so they'll definitely want to try and get involved with him if they can. Well, with Serpanki's been pulled along by Tom Payne. They'll be hoping to stay there, with Serpanki in 15th place, of course, is the man who would benefit from the reverse grid pole position for race number 2. And it would be the first time he has benefited from the grid at all in the feature race of a given race weekend. It's definitely been an interesting statistic for Serpanki. Things have not quite worked out the way he's wanted them to this season. He's come very close on multiple occasions to putting himself right towards the front of the field for the feature races, but it's just never quite clicked. But speaking of things clicking together, as we do leave our battlers there for 16th behind for a brief moment, we do come to Daniel Otuga versus Mark Beckhouse. And well, Beckhouse now trying to take second place back. And Daniel Otuga started in 4th here. He goes defensive. So Otuga saying to him, look, it's the only the 2 of us. We've got a 2.5 second gap to the next car. We might as well fight. Oh my good lord, that was so close to the exit wall there for Beckhouse. But going to go too wide into the fountain. There's wheel-to-wheel contact. Both drivers here refusing to give an inch. And as they're now coming towards turn number 4, well, they survive it this time. But right now, I think they're both going to be thinking, okay, perhaps we don't do that anymore for a little bit. But then again, temptation will take over very quickly as Serpanki you out the inside of Tom Payne for what is 14th place, and now he wants to move a bit further forward and give himself some more security, and does so. Lovely move from Peter Serpanki. He shows you he's still got it as they, let's go for so Wareham into the barrier coming out to turn number 3. The car skid looses on him, and as he gets it back together, he's lost his front wing, or at least the end plate of the front wing. You can see it there's fallen to the road, but he's trying to get it turned around. He's got some good time to do so, to be fair, but you can see with how tight the circuit is, that's going to take an eternity. But Simon Wareham is back on his way now, but an unfortunate incident there, just a little bit too quick on the throttle coming out to turn number 3 and sliding loose. But Serpanki versus Payne, they're back at it now, coming down towards turn number 8. But who's going to make the move? Will Payne get a run here down the back straight? Something says he might be able to do, as he does have the wonderful words on the front of the car there. You can see in the cockpit, send it or bend it. I think he's reminding himself that every so often he should take a risk. And right now, will he take a risk down here as we see George Mattock going quite slowly? Mattock falling into this group. I wonder what that was about, unless he picked up a slowdown. I didn't see it. But normally, it's not that easy to pick up a slowdown the first half a lap around here. But definitely Mattock falling back. I wonder if that's tactical for Mattock. He wants 15th place, so that way he starts a pole position for its race number 2. Well, he's going to sacrifice all his points for race number 1, but there's nothing in the rule book that says you can't afford to sacrifice places. You are allowed to, as long as you do it sensibly. But meanwhile, Gerris Jr. back side by side with Frankie D. D on the inside here. D now wants 6th place over the Swede. He takes it, but can he hold it down to the fountain? Yes, he can. D here really built up a long line of cars behind him, and right now he's got the bit between his team. He wants that top 10. He wants the best possible result he can get here in the sprint race today, and making his way out to turn number 4 in towards 5. Will roll his way through it in number 14. He's only got what will be, I believe, one more lap after this one to get that job done, albeit with 30 seconds left on the clock. This might be the final lap. We haven't seen the white flag wave. Meanwhile, Casino up the inside here of Gerris Jr. close between them. They're literally overlapping, but then they survive it. Brilliant racing between the two, and now it's going to be almost 3 wide there, as we do see Gordon van den Bergen spreading out there to see whether he can get involved, but he cannot quite. And with 15 seconds left on the clock, and our leader right now making his way to the hairpin, I think this is the final lap. So suddenly this lap becomes even more important than it previously did, and the checker flag is already coming out here. And well, as we do see Casino on the inside there of Gerris Jr. to make the move, well, meanwhile we have to cut away for it, ladies and gentlemen, because for Adam Miles it is going to be another sprint race place win. He will take victory in round number 17, and he will move into second place in the championship ahead of his rivals, particularly Marcus Byfeldt. Second place is going to go the way of Daniel Otuga as he comes through just ahead of Bart Beckhouse. Jeff Randall returns to the top 5 with fourth place finish ahead of Nathan Wade, and Frankie D will take his first top 10 of the season, was 6th place here in round number 17. Well done to him, holding off Miguel Casena, Christopher Garros Jr. and Gordon van den Bergen. Remco Pleiss to round off your top 10 ahead of Arjen de Vries, and then it will be Marcus Byfeldt with a frustrated 12th place finish ahead of Peter Suapanki. Tom Payne takes 14th, and Klaus Biedermann in the end will make his way around the outside there. George Matuk, I think, had something go wrong right at the end of the race to take 16th, and that will put him out of contention for the pole position for race number 2, just ahead of Dave Dawson. And then we will have Simon Wareham. After his spin out of the fountain section on the final lap, he will crawl along here just ahead of Kevin Budgeon to take 18th place. Well done to Simon for getting it on home. Budgeon takes 19th, and then we've got a bit of time before we do get to your last finishers of this race, including Christopher Crook as the Swedish driver on his debut. It started off well. He made up plenty of place at the start, but it did go a little bit backwards in the end. But still, he's finishing the race. He meant to start it, and that's absolutely lovely to see. He'll come through, and then we've got a little bit more time before we do get to your 21st and final finisher of Titus de Jong. There's Crook taking his first checker flag of the season, and now here comes Titus Young out the final corner. Give them all a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. They've all been brilliant, even if it's not quite worked out for them. And the great news is, as Titus Young completes this race for us, we've still got another race to come in the Californian sun. How about that? Long Beach, always a spectacle. And as all the drivers cool themselves down, well, they now will have the luxury, of course, of what will be none other than a 5-minute warm-up or breather session. So that gives us the luxury of walking you through those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. Now, round number 17 of the Skip Barber QT Trophy Season 5, brought to you on iRacing, sponsored by Musical Money Limited and Old Kit Racing Team. It was a fascinating race in Long Beach. Adam Miles, in the end, despite having Nathan Wade close behind him in the early stages, he proved too hot to chase and handle, and Miles was able to gradually walk away with it. After a big slide into turn 1 for Nathan Wade, Daniel Otuga picked up the reins and took second place just ahead of Bart Beckhouse, for the two of them fighting hard all the way to the finish, and that was your podium. Jeff Randall taking up 4th there for the Old Kit Racing Team, and after the disappointment of Mid-Ohio, he'll feel as though he's back once again, ahead of Nathan Wade, who took 5th place, and what a big slide into turn 1 it was. He slid so much he didn't hit the barrier, but he absolutely fitted his way back into the top 5 and took the final spot within it. Behind the British privateer, it was then the American of Frankie D, and taking his first top 10 of the season. To be absolutely ecstatic about that. It's finally happened in the number 14, and well, we couldn't be happier for him. 6 attempts ahead of Miguel Casena, who in the end aided D a little bit by getting in the way of Christopher Garros Jr.'s plans to try and take the 6th place back, and Casena stealing away that 7th right at the end, coming through turns 9 and 10. The Spaniard was ahead of the Swede in the end by only 4 attempts, with Garros Jr. taking 8th, and then we did see Gordon van den Bergen for all the early promise of the race, unfortunately having to settle for 9th, but the Sickhead Racing driver just held off Remco Pleiss here for Raging Turtle Racing, who completed your top 10. Best rest in length, it was Arjen de Vries, the Dutchman there, not quite able to make progress and to take his time with this one, ahead of Marcus Byfeldt, who had a very frustrating race after the contact with George Matuk into the fountain, meant that he's lost some key points, but he will be starting in 4th place for race number 2. Peter Suapanki, Tom Payne and Klaus Biedermann completed your top 15, with Biedermann taking the pole position for race number 2 coming up shortly, and it was George Matuk ahead of Dave Dawson, with Simon Wareham, Kevin Budgeon and Christopher Crook completing your top 20, and outside the top 20, 21st, it was Titus de Jong who completed that finishing order. Well, ladies and gentlemen, absolutely brilliant race number 1, no doubt about it. And the wonderful news is, that was the sprint race, as you can see it on the schedule. But what does that mean? Well, we're almost in time now for what is our second race of the day. Round number 18, the 30-minute feature, is almost upon us here in Long Beach. And well, understandably, if race number 1 is anything to go by, this second race of the day is going to be even more exciting. As all drives come through, because we have the big strategic elements to now consider, which is that mandatory pit stop. As Matuk decides to park up at the one place where he got parked up earlier on, albeit through that instant between himself and Byfeldt. I'm sure they'll talk about it, if not in between the 2 races and after the racing today. But it did go a little bit wrong for him, but I'm sure he'll get it back together as best as he can. And as all these drivers make their way on around right now, well, Remco Pleiss will be thinking to himself, okay, a top 10 in the first one. I'll now be starting in 6th place for the purposes of race number 2. What can I do from there? And strategy is going to be so important here, because if you end up caught up behind another car when you have got the faster pace, well, you're going to be losing time. So expect there to be a few undercuts in the race. There may even be some attempts at an overcut. But of course, the one driver everybody's going to be wondering what exactly does he do on strategy will be Adam Miles. Now, we know that normally, strategy-wise, he loves a good undercut. He normally works out how long he can go in the second stint of the race and then works the strategy back from there. But will he play the game of working his way through the order, or will he immediately go for the undercut strategy as soon as he can, give it his 15th place start? Well, he's got the pace here. He's definitely shown that in qualifying in race number 1. However, there will be plenty of banana skins along the way. Drivers who he needs to be wary of, perhaps none more so than what will be, of course, the likes of Arjen de Vries, who we started towards the front of the field. And perhaps towards the front, he might just be able to develop a little bit more pace out there, because it didn't go quite right in race number 1. But I don't think it's through lack of trying for the Dutchman. I think it just simply was the fact that things were not clicking together in the pack he was in. Now, if you do need to grab yourself some liquid refreshment, ladies and gentlemen, or perhaps top up your snack bowl if you have got some crisps, alternatively some popcorn, any of your choosing, we don't differentiate here. Now is a very good time to do so, because if you don't, we'll be going to the grid in approximately a minute's time, and after that, we will be lights out and away we go for 30 minutes of racing action, and you won't want to miss a single second of it here in round number 80 of the championship. We're giving you your warning, your 1 minute warning, to make sure you go get a drink and get that top up in if you need, or if you need to take that important bathroom break, which I'm sure a few of our drivers need to do so as well, but definitely go do it now. But as we do see Daniel Otuga make his way around, one fault for you all, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you've been following the latest iRacing development blogs. St. Petersburg may be on its way very soon to iRacing. Skippies around St. Petersburg. How does that sound one day? Just a thought out there. Do let us know what you think if you have awareness of the St. Petersburg circuit. Of course, used as part of GT World Challenge America on an annual basis, as well as other major series. I wonder if it could be a spectacle for the Skippies. Well, speaking of a spectacle, it's time to go to the grid for race number 2. And let's see how they all line up for round number 18 of 24. So as all of our drivers make their way onto the grid for the second and final time today, this is how they'll all line up for the round 18 feature race. Klaus Biedermann takes pole position with the top 15 inversion. The Portuguese driver in the coffee bean machine, just ahead of Tom Payne. Behind them on row number 2, it's going to be Peter Surpanki for Old Kit Racer team ahead of Marcus Byfeldt. With row number 3 going to Arjen de Vries and Remco Palacia. From the all-Dutch third row, it's then going to be a German and Swedish fourth row of Gordon van den Bergen and Christopher Gerrits Jr. Miguel Cosena and Frankie D completing that top 10. Outside the top 10 behind the American, it will then be an all-British row number 6, Nathan Wade and Jeff Randall together, and behind him will be Marcus Beckhaus and none other than what will be Daniel Otuga. Then we do have Adam Miles starting 15th, your winner of race number 1, just ahead of George Mattock, with Dave Dawson and Simon Wareham on row 9, just ahead of Kevin Butchen and Christopher Crook, and in completing the 21 starters, it will be Titus de Jong. But ladies and gentlemen, the light's already going on, it's as quick as that, and for the second time today, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. And it's lights and away we go here for the second time today. All drivers look to get a good start here, but Biedermann does have a bit of a slow pull off the line, and as he makes his way on away, well, right now, understandably, I think his mindset's going to be that he needs to hold on to this lead as Tom Payne and Marcus Byfeldt look to each other. So some early positioning here, as we can see Peter Surpanki's going to go 3 wide into turn 1. Cold tyres and cold brakes, they're all going to have to be careful of this. Van den Bergen also comes in relatively hot. They all condense, and as they do, well, there, Frankie D go very close to the wall now into the fountain. Somebody's going to have to back out here in these groups. And well, as we see a bit of a tap there, and that's going to send with Van den Bergen wide. That was very cool play to get his elbows out, but they've all made it through the opening at 3 quarters. Well done to them all, and now they all start to settle down. A brush and all there for Nathan Way. Oh, goodness me, I thought that was going to end up in tears there as Tom Payne to his inside. Now coming all the way through, that's Daniel Otuga, in fact, to his inside. Well, meanwhile, at the front of the field, let's go to Marcus Byfeldt, who knows right now he needs to win as a minimum here in order to arrest the damage that's been done by the sprint race. He's up into first, and we see Klaus Biedermann, Tom Payne and Arjen de Vries following on through, although de Vries already falling backwards a little bit for the top 3 here as they come down in towards turn number 8. Further back, Mark Beckhaus fighting hard with Adam Miles. Miles already up a place, or he was, and now he's fallen back to where he started. So for Miles, this is not quite clicking the way he wants it to right now. But And understandably, I suspect Miles right now is trying to settle into the running, and then he'll try to make some progress in a brief degree. Van den Bergen on the inside here of Remco Pleisier. Pleisier there on the outside, a bit of a drift there, and well, as both tries to come through, Pleisier almost pins the woods. Gareth Jr. tries to go around the outside. If he'll do that, he'll be on the inside here into the hairpin. Pleisier goes deep, but in the end he's able to survive the corner by letting the car roll very deep initially and gets the steering lock back on himself. And after one lap, where it's definitely been an adventurous first lap for many of our drivers, but Marcus Byfeldt right now has made his adventure to the top, and how long can he hold on to it? Because Byfeldt leads ahead of Klaus Biedermann, followed by Arjun de Vries. That's your top three. Tom Payne sits in fourth ahead of Peter Suopanki. And then we do have Gordon van den Bergen in sixth ahead of Christopher Garris Jr. with Remco Pleisier in eighth place ahead of Miguel Cosina and Frankie D. But here we see Pleisier right now, great defensive versus Cosina. Remco Pleisier definitely, I think, worried about losing places here. Best the rest driver Daniel Otuga a bit further behind, as we then do see behind him none other than Jeff Randall. Now Otuga's had a good start, moved up from 14th to 11th. Randall's not gained or lost any places. Neither is Nathan Wade or Mark Beckhouse. But meanwhile, in fact Nathan Wade has lost two, we should say, after his brush with the wall coming out to turn number 4 in the opening lap. Meanwhile, Mark Beckhouse has lost one, and Adam Miles has gained none, nor has he lost any. So right now, Miles here looking for a potential move on Beckhouse in towards turn number 6. Well, it's not going to quite come forward there as he squeezed like to apex. Oh, there's cars to the wall there, and while they spread all around, everyone takes evasive action, and as they do, everyone doing a brilliant job there of evading. But I think we have had Garris Jr. towed to the pit lane. Tom Payne's got damage to the car, so something's got wrong for him. And well, I think the altercation has come between himself and Garris Jr. But what exactly has happened between them, we'll find out very shortly. But right now, this is going to shuffle the field quite a bit, as here we do see Remco Pleisier and Jeff Randall going side by side, but Randall moves into 7th place now. So Pleisier lets it go, and now Frankie D looks down the outside there, but that's more just to give himself a bit of a run into turn number 10 rather than any actual move. With the field now back into the line of stern formation. We also did see George Mattock make up some places as a result of the chaos that ensued. So he's got Kevin Budge and Titus de Jong for close company behind him. And Payne right now, I suspect, will duck to the pit lane shortly if he doesn't already. No, in fact, he stays out. So Payne right now is trying to carry on for a little bit longer, but that car is not pointing straight. It is pointing at an angle that has got suspension damage. It is crabbing, as we like to call it, whereby essentially the suspension, to get the car to drive straight, you have to have the steering wheel at an angle. And that's what the car's doing, is essentially it is not going in the right direction at the moment. He makes his way down in towards turn number 1. He has to release the place there to Christopher Krug. He is driving the car right now that I suspect does need to come into the pits very soon, because it is going to be increasingly dangerous out of the circuit. Meanwhile, Marcus Byfeldt, your leader, is now starting to open a bit of a gap. Arjun de Vries right behind him there, but he's got Klaus Biedermann for close company. And well, we're starting to see forks placed in the field. We're starting to see packs be created. Miguel Cosena at the head of the third pack. This is the biggest one of the ball for 5th, all the way through to 15th place. It is a gap in grand total of only 4.5 seconds between all these drivers. And Cosena, I think, will be very worried about the fact that he's losing Suopanki, and he'll want to try and catch up to him as quickly as he can. But let's catch up with what exactly happened between Payne and Garris Jr. only a lap ago. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. So this was coming down in towards turn 6 and 7. So Payne made his way into the corner, full speed, and went a little bit wide. Rear of the car slid loose, and in the end, Suopanki almost got caught up in it. Van den Bergen went into the way of the wayward car of Payne, and in the end, Garris Jr. is the one who came off the worst of it all. Let's get on board from Garris Jr. This is him make his way through. So you'll see Gordon van den Bergen is in front of him. Now, Payne is not visible at this point, and then suddenly you'll see Payne starts to slide loose a little bit. Van den Bergen goes straight for the side, and Garris Jr. went to the right there, thinking he would be able to avoid Van den Bergen's car that he thought was going to get pitched into the stricken car of Payne, but not quite so. Van den Bergen was able to release himself. And unfortunately for what was there, Garris Jr., he's the one who's chaos just as bad as Payne, as both drivers in the end lose out. Van den Bergen right now with damage to the car as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he's struggling for what is the remainder of the stint, and well, in fact, he has come into the pits for a quick repair and also for a splash and dash of fuel. Now, will Van den Bergen have to make a second stop? Potentially. We don't really know how much fuel these drivers need at the moment. We suspect they're not going to need too much. Then again, the slipstream around here may not be as powerful, nor is fuel saving, because of the fact we don't have any long straights as such, minus the start-finish straight and also the brief degree of the back straight. But there's going to be a lot more acceleration zones here, so therefore the window in which drivers might be able to pit may be a lot more narrow by comparison with, say, Mid-Ohio last time out, where of course we had drivers pitting as early as the end of lap 4, or to put that in a time basis, as early as what was the end of the 6th minute of racing. As they all head on down, well, Remco Pleisier battling side by side here with Frankie D. I think this is going to be more a swap rather than a battle. as they head down into that braking zone there. Place he gets ahead. Adam Miles now is starting to build up some momentum as he bounces his way through turn 9. Absolutely savaging the curb there, it must be said. But the Briton right now, I think, now thinking to himself, right, I've got to start making the ground. The field is spreading. I've got my tyres up to temperature. I know what my strategy looks like. As Miles comes out the corner here on the back of D. D definitely looking for the return on place here at the moment, but I think Miles with the double draft here, his mindset's going to be just take it to the outside little by little to get the inside for turn at number 1. And with the side draft here, he's definitely now comfortably alongside D, who won't be able to go anywhere, although Miles does give him the breathing room to make it free wide if desired. So Miles being respectful to D, not boxing him in, but then D backs off there out of mutual trust, and now Miles takes both places there. So Adam Miles moves up into 8th. Smooth move there. Remco Blythe was never going to fight that. He wants to be behind the fastest man who can take him up to the next pack of cars. And now Miles' next target is to put in effectively what we did equivalent of qualifying laps for at least 2 or 3 laps to try and get himself to random. And we know that Miles' pace, when he puts his mind to it, can be the best part of what he's 5 tenths of a second faster than everybody else based on qualifying. Well, he's now got to tap into that qualifying pace. Yellow flag for Kevin Budgeon. That will be for track limits. I suspect that will have been at the fountain as meanwhile. That's 2 wide there between Beckhaus and Mattock, fighting them each other into turns 6 and 7. And Beckhaus then pulling ahead. And your number 44 driver now coming down in towards turn number 8. Haven't got ahead of that. But now 7 tenths the gap to Frankie D there. And I suspect they both stop the fighting for a brief moment. Speaking of Jeff Randall and Peter Suapanki, well, these two swap in places. Randall at the inside there, his teammate. They'll be on the radio to each other to say, let's do the swap. And Randall, of course, chasing after Christina and Otuga. He's got the pace to do so. And I think Suapanki will be very grateful to his teammate there to oblige and give him a little bit of time along. The old Git Racing team tries to swap the places. They get very close to our static camera. And we do see a Facebook marshals there. Make the way down towards the next braking zone. Well, Adam Miles now into the pit lane immediately. Nathan Wade responds, so does Kevin Budgeon. So it seems as though the end of lap number 5 was the earliest you could come into the pit lane. At 4 would be the fuel stop that take you to the end. Miles here wants clear track. That's his game plan. And, well, it is a very easy pit lane to exit. Not as easy to enter, it must be said. And do keep in mind on the exit, they need to stay to the right of the red line there. If they do not and they go over it prematurely, they will be given a drive-through penalty by the automated iRacing shooting system. But hold the phone on that, because that's going to be Mattock on the inside of D. In the end, they squeeze each other through turns 2 and 3. As Mark Beckhaus there was under pressure initially from D, but now Mattock going all in. There's contact between the two. It's a hit to the barrier there for Frankie D. But I think there it was absolutely square on. I think he'll get away with it this time, but for D, he'll be breathing very deeply right now. I mean, Ortiz Young's watching this and thinking to himself, good, it's me, they're taking 50 Shades of Grey out of each other. And making the way down in towards turn number 6. Well, for Titus de Jong, I think if neither driver in front of him pits shortly, he might want to consider pitting himself. That might be the tactic, as D coming back at Mattock now. And, well, I think this is turning a little bit Red Mist-esque as they come out, albeit Mattock there very close to the exit barrier, but perfectly manages that as a load of dust gets kicked up there from the circuit. That's dust that's come over from one of the barriers, but as they make the way down the back stretch, D on the inside, Mattock on the outside here. They're still fighting for this towards turn number 9. This is not fuel saving. This is all about position right now between these two drivers. And De Jong at this point, we're watching this thinking, well, how do I get involved? How can I play into this? And the answer is he can't really. As D on the inside there, Mattock goes for the switchback. D absolutely parks it nicely on the apex. And, well, in the end, George Mattock comes in. So he releases D. And D now carries on his journey here. And it looks so D's car, for what's the impact on the barrier, is okay. But meanwhile, Daniel Otuga's coming to the pit lane. He's got damage. He's smoking his Otuga. Well, that's not normal. We don't normally see that. We've got nothing to say that Daniel Otuga's been in an instant with a wall. I wonder whether, as he's made his way to the pit lane, he's accidentally essentially forced the car down the gearbox too aggressively. He's overheated the engine. He might have blown the engine. It is something you can do on iRacing, I do believe, with these skippies, is that you can essentially blow the engines out on them. And if so, well, unfortunately there for Daniel Otuga, well, thankfully, he's got a fast repair, but it's still going to cost him a bit of time in the pit lane. But Otuga makes way out. He has used that fast repair, but this brings you right in amongst the likes of Beckhaus, Placet, Mattock and De Jong. Meanwhile, Adam Miles, the man who was the one to trigger off the pit stops, well, we do see there Jeff Randall coming out ahead of Miles just about. It's going to be side by side. It's not ahead. It's going to be 2 wide as they come out to 1 into 2. And Adam Miles there moves ahead of Jeff Randall. So we now know that Adam Miles, the leading strategist here right now, and that early pit stop has worked out for him, but he's having to go some. And at this point, Jeff Randall now, he will latch himself onto the back of Miles and be the most compliant driver as possible, because he knows that Adam Miles is onto something here. And now how will we see the top 9 respond? Because the top 9 have yet to pit. We're not not even halfway through this race right now. Do they all pit early, potentially? Does everybody undercut each other? And in doing so, nobody wins on the strategy stakes? Or do we now see the field split? Perhaps some drivers pit at the midway point, but otherwise some go long. Marcus Byfeldt, we do know he is the proverbial fuel whisperer. He has this talent to fuel save even when he's by himself and he has no car to fuel save with. He just has this ability to make that fuel tank go the longest of everybody. And as he makes his way on through turns 1 and 2, he's definitely right now not driving conservatively. I can tell you that. He's really all over the circuit, using every millimetre of tarmac. He's paid for it, so why should he use it? But the point being right now, he's going all in. But if he is fuel saving as well, I don't know how he does it. As we do look to Miguel Casena, all over the back of Klaus Biedermann. These two still fighting over third, at least on the road. But they've got to be mindful of the fact any fighting they do will cost them time. Albeit Casena getting a better run out to turn number 5, and immediately there, Klaus Biedermann lets it go. And the number 40 driver in the coffee machine, he really is playing the compliant driver here. I think Biedermann understands the fact that he finished in 15th, and therefore being at the front of the field in amongst drivers who are faster than him, and this is not an insult to say this, I think he's really respected the fact that right now, if he just complies with those around him and he works with them, he will gain more places naturally and he will gain more points rather than fighting. Fighting can be done in the final 5 minutes when everyone has done their pit stops. As he comes down towards turn number 9, Peter Surpanki a little bit further back here, and the old kit racing team have split their strategy, so Surpanki being used as one of the drivers who stays in amongst the lead group. He can feed some information back potentially to Randall as to what exactly is going on. But Mark Beckhouse, unfortunately, we have had retired from this race. He's had to come into the pit lane. There's been an issue with the car of some description, and it has gone wrong for Beckhouse. Now, we did have one driver with a black flag. I think it was Nathan Wade, unless I'm mistaken. He's had to commit to a drive-through penalty recently, so Wade's made a second visit to the pits, although it's not been a stop. I do believe that has been for speeding in the pit lane, which is not the easiest penalty to get rid of. To be fair, it costs you a lot of time. As Miguel Casena makes way onto lap number 9, or 2 seconds behind Arjun Naveed, and a further 4 seconds off of your race leader of Marcus Byfeldt. Things are calming down for a little bit at the moment, and we are now into what is the strategic phase of this race. Everyone is thinking, I've got to work with the guy in front of me. I've got to now manage my strategy rather than fight. And Jeff Randall demonstrating that here as he makes his way across that timeline. We will jump on board here with Randall for the old Git Racing team, as he continues to follow his Miles around. Now, for Jeff Randall, of course, it's been a long time since we've seen him on the podium this season, and I think he'll be hoping that Miles right now, with his pace, will be able to bring him into the top 3. If the theory holds true, you would imagine that Miles right now is planning to potentially leap his way into lead on the strategy, albeit the gap to Byfeldt when he did pit was the best part of about 4 to 5 seconds. So if he can overhaul that much in this window, that's going to be an absolute miracle drive. But to be fair, the Miles definitely makes miracles happen, and Jeff Randall would love to be a part of that story if he can make it happen. Down towards turn number 6 they go. We leave Jeff Randall's car for a brief moment. We had a change of position further back. We have had a change between Christopher Garros Jr. and Mark Beckhouse, and here is Garros Jr. at the moment, with Beckhouse out of the car. And well, as Garros Jr. now moves to 20th place, it's been a difficult start to his race. A lot of repair work to the car after it got towed, but he's out there right now just hoping he can get it to the end and potentially pick up some valuable points. For Titus de Jong, a little bit further up the order, he's been battling with Kevin Budgeon. He's moved his way ahead of Budgeon quite recently. How exactly did that play out? Here's a replay to explain. So it was, well, this was Christopher Garros Jr. in fact, whereas we are looking towards Titus de Jong. We apologise for that there, bit of a technical hitch, but this was the battle between de Jong and Budgeon. Budgeon was ahead at the time, made the way down towards turn of 1, and de Jong on the inside here. Well, Budgeon didn't fight too much, to be fair to him, and wanted to work with the number 90 driver. So that's how they changed it up, and well, and then they made the way onwards because they're chasing down George Mattock. Well, back to your live pitch as we go, and as we do, speaking of George Mattock, he's putting some pressure here on the next member of the Dutch contingent, as Remco Blijsicht currently in 14th place. Well, he's got to worry about the fact here, side by side, and Mattock right now definitely has got his elbows out today. Not that's a bad thing. And coming in towards turn 1 will take the place there, and Blijsicht doesn't really have a response. Budgeon swapping back here with de Jong, these two trying to work together to gain time, as meanwhile, we've got a meatball flag for Payne, as we have for none other than Dave Dawson, who, having not pitted as of yet, well, the good news for him is the fact that when he does come into the pits to essentially repair the car, he will also be able to get a strategic stop out of the way. However, the problem is, where exactly did he pick that up? Now, we haven't got anything to explain necessarily, but we do have a replay of him being partial. You can see the car there is not pointing straight under braking, so he's picked up some suspension damage, and this replay may offer you an answer as to why. So as they made the way on around, where was Dowson? He was ahead here, going into turn number 5. Oh, goodness me, that's a nasty knock to the barrier there. Rear left suspension rods will definitely be heavily compressed by that one, and I'm amazed it's still going, the car, after that, because it was a secondary hit to the front left on the concrete barrier rather than the tyres, and well, thankfully, he was able to keep it going. I suspect, in a different reality, that car would have gone into the wall and perhaps been entrenched there. It has given Crook and also Wareham places, but Dowson right now knows he has to change up his strategy a little bit. However, this does not add a pit stop to his race. It just means whatever strategy he had, he's had to bring it forward by the best part of a few minutes. But fastest lap of the race, a 31.805, set by Adam Miles as Jeff Randall pulls out the toe there, and you'll realise the reason why Randall has done that is not because he wants to make his way past Miles. He would have been a lot closer if he wanted to do that. That was to send him a message, which is, I am bleeding my speed so you can carry on your racing line. Do not expect me to get in your way. Randall here using the proverbial Skippy Morse code, and as he makes his way out to turn 4 or 5, or should we call it the Skippy code, if you will, the Skippy code of conduct. I do think that needs to be what they really rename the rule book to at some point. But as he makes his way out to turn number 5 up towards 6, Randall right now definitely conducts himself in a way where he wants Miles to show him the way to the victory. But as they come through turn 6 and 7, a bit further back, and the fastest lap of the race is actually now in the hands of George Mattett with a 1:31.79. So Mattett there in the toe of what was Remco Pleister only moments ago, and now they swap things back around once again. These two continue to work together as much as humanly possible, but Mattett getting the hammer down. He knows there's places to be made here. We are still waiting. With 12.5 minutes left on the clock plus the final lap, we're still waiting for the top 8 to make their pit stops. And when they do, where they fit into this order, anybody's guess. But we do believe that Marcus Byfeldt right now, as he catches up to his teammate there of Garros Jr. in the 36. This actually works out quite nicely. Now, I don't know if they are officially teammates, but given the fact they are running identical liveries, I suspect they may have worked together in the past. Well, I was going to say this might have been an ideal situation, given the fact that Garros Jr. is ahead of him, but we then have to keep in mind that Garros Jr. perhaps doesn't have the pace of Byfeldt, so therefore this hasn't worked out. Byfeldt could have picked up a different toe if he'd been able to catch up to Garros Jr. here instead on the run down towards turn number 9, but it hasn't quite worked out that way, so Byfeldt, in fact, hasn't gained any time, nor has he lost any, really, but a bit of a misfortunate set of circumstances there, because otherwise he could have gained the best part of about 2 to 3 tenths of a second in this one run, and that might have just helped him out a little bit with regards to his wider strategic picture. But 6 seconds back behind him, we still have Arjen de Vries, and running in second at the moment with 1.4 seconds between himself and Miguel Cosena. Well, it's understandable with the number 27 driver here right now. He's put all his faith in the strategy, and that's what you really have to do at this point. When the circuit gets a little bit quiet around you, and you know that some drivers are pitted, and you know that you've still yet to pit, you have to commit to your guns and just think, yes, surely this will work out. Now, if he does have a spotter looking out for him, and indeed several of these drivers will, they will be getting information being fed back to them to be told as to when's perhaps the right time to pit, what's going on further behind, etc. But right now, at least, de Vries carrying on here and feeling as though the only way is to stay out there until that fuel tank gets a little bit drier. We're coming down towards turn 1. Miguel Cosena still with him, and Cosena, to be fair, a tenth faster there, setting personal best for all these drivers, so the fuel tanks might be getting quite dry at the moment, and therefore we'll expect them into the pits within the next lap or two. But Cosena is definitely up in the tempo here, and well, if he brings that gap to de Vries down a little bit more, if he brings it down by another 2 tenths, he might be within attacking distance, or at least toe distance. But as we do see Simon Wareham and Christopher Crook both enjoying a good run into one, well, in the end they're going to stay as they are, or making their way through turns 2 into 3. Wareham right now close enough and to really read what's on the rear of the car in front of him. Well, thankfully there's nothing on the rear of it at this time. He's come out of 4 towards 5. Bit of sparks off the wall there from Crook getting too close to the exit barrier, but to be fair, easy to do. But just a brief rush like that, you can get away with it nice and easy. It's the big hits, that's where we're really concerned. Wareham right now continues to follow in towards turn 6 and 7. We've got change going on elsewhere, with Bujan and De Jong swapping back and forth again in the fight for 15th. And Wareham right now, we suspect, might be brought into that battle after the pit stop, albeit if so, he'll be bringing Christopher Crook with him for good measure as well. But 10 minutes left on the clock. Down the backstretch they go. Into the pits has come Tom Payne, the heavily damaged car, so I think he's at a moment with a wall. And well, it's not a happy day for the number 88 driver right now, but Wareham here inching closer and closer, but not looking for the move at any point, just simply taking it nice and easy, and knowing that right now he needs to work with the man in front of him rather than work against him. But into the pits, I look at my Conte booth window. We do have Arjen de Vries and also Peter Suapanki, so they've decided now, with only a third of the race left, it is time to come on down. There is de Vries, and Suapanki will be a bit further back. There he's in the rear of your picture, but meanwhile, other drivers stay on, as Frankie D makes his way now onto lap number 14. and it still has no end in sight for his opening stint. Simon Wareham's into the pits. That's to try and undercut this man of Christopher Crook, and will he be able to do so? Because Crook will going longer, he'll hope that the overcut strategy is the key to victory, as Arden de Reed now begins to leave the pit lane. As he does, Peter Serpanki will follow him gradually. Where is Adam Miles in all of this? Well, here is Adam Miles at the moment, and there's Arden de Reed at the bottom of your picture, so it's going to be close between these two, with Jeff Randall coming into the mixture as well. But through turn 1, de Reed on the outside there, and it's going to be practically the same as what it was for Miles and Randall. And Miles here on the inside, he's not going to back out of this. Randall tries to squeeze it as well, but then de Reed gets between the two of them, so Adam Miles does just about sneak out ahead of Arden de Reed, but that now tells you where Miles is in relation to Marcus Byfeldt theoretically, and the theory is that given that Byfeldt was the best part of 4 seconds up the road from de Reed when he came into the pit lane, Adam Miles right now theoretically is 4 seconds on strategy behind Byfeldt, but we'll see how the fuel saving has played out and how that can swing things. But as we do see de Reed right now, well, having Randall close behind, Jeff Randall at this point will not be happy how this has played out, because it's all looking as though it's coming up top trumps for him, and now he's had the Dutchman that slice his way right in between the two of them. Meanwhile, further back, Peter Serpanki and George Mattock there now starting to look at each other once again. Serpanki going defensive here through turn number 8 after trying to make the move stick out of 6 and 7, and Mattock now getting a better run off the corner there. It's all about the side draft as Randall back up the inside of de Reed in towards turn number 9. So de Reed they're playing quite compliant, knowing they crossed each other time by fighting, and Miles is already 1.2 seconds clear, but back to Serpanki, and well, he swapped back with Mattock. He's let Mattock take that place, and Remco Pleister on the back of them as they come through turn number 9 and in towards turns 10 and 11. On the way and out at the moment. Well, with their fighting, you would understand if the fact that we'd have Klaus Biedermann and Frankie D potentially entering this group, as that was very close to the inside barrier there for Remco Pleister. So the Dutchman, he's running to the walls very, very close, and I do wonder here whether he feels as though he's now got a bit of an itch to try and scratch a place or two off the list, because he's now going to be trying to look around the outside to the inside of Serpanki in towards 1, but that's going to give Mattock plenty of breathing room here. Mattock won't have to worry about what's going on behind him. All he needs to do is deliver his apex. Meanwhile, up the inside goes Remco Pleister, and intentionally there we did see Serpanki go a bit deep, getting quite close to the wall, but that was to make sure that Pleister had all the space to work with. So Serpanki here being quite compliant, and meanwhile your 117 driver, his target now is to try and catch up to the Briton in front of him. That may not be as easy. But through the apex they go, and from them, well, we come back to your leader. He's still yet to pit. He now goes on to a 16th lap, does Marcus Byfeldt. He is refusing to come in at the moment. Miguel Casina the same, Klaus Biedermann the same. Now, we do know if the race was a theoretical no-stop, they still have to pit. They have to be stationary in the pit box for some period of time, so therefore they can't no-stop this race as much as perhaps they would like to in some respects. But as we do see Klaus Biedermann making his way on down this very long pit lane here at Long Beach, and whilst it's not the longest in the world, it feels incredibly long because of the amount of time you spend in it, because the pit limiter line is very early and it is quite late in terms of when it gets switched off. But Biedermann, D and Crook all into the pit lane, as meanwhile Adam Miles now makes his way out the hairpin, and surely this means he's going to be taking all 3 of those places. We look to the blimp camera, making his way down the waterfront as he makes his way past the palm trees very shortly at all the spectator stands. We can see there's D in the pit lane making his way out very gradually, and then he does also pass Biedermann there as he gets lost behind the hospital, and well, thankfully he's not going to that, as we do see Randall and de Vries behind, and well, they'll all clear those in the pit lane. Daniel Otuga as well, he's battling here with Nathan Wade, bringing them along for good measure. They will clear D and Krug, and well, Biedermann will be a bit further behind them, and therefore the chop and change is occurring. But here comes Budgen and Tito de Jong, and Kevin Budgen right now in the lead car here, not having to defend. Whereas Tito de Jong is working with him for at least for now. But I would imagine that very soon the complexion of this battle is going to turn into a proper battle rather than a to me to you. Daniel Otuga and Nathan Wade, they've been together for some time. Of course, Nathan Wade with that error early on, that cost him some time. Otuga as well, it has not quite gone the way he's wanted it to. But meanwhile, here's the pit stop we've been waiting for. Marcus Byfeldt is in. I presume Miguel Casina's coming in as well. Yes, he is. I look out my booth window. He's not quite on camera, but he is into the pit lane. There he is. You can see him for a brief moment. Now, where is Adam Miles? Miles is currently 2/3 of the way down the back straight, coming up towards turn number 9. Byfeldt is already being serviced. Miles' pit stop, by the way, 9.12 seconds. That was fuel going into the car, nothing more, nothing less. Jeff Randall, 10 seconds. Marcus Byfeldt, 9.03 seconds. My goodness, even though he's been up front all by himself for a good portion of the race, he's not had anybody to fuel save off of with Slipstream. He's still been able to save as much fuel as Adam Miles, and as he makes round down, well, Miles is nowhere nowhere to be seen. Marcus Byfeldt right now already leaving the pit lane. You can't even see Miles in the rear of the picture there. That is the gap that Byfeldt's got. Miguel Casino meanwhile making his way on down, and there is Adam Miles on the right hand side of your screen as they all come down towards turn number 1, and Marcus Byfeldt now has an 8-second gap. Well, in fact, it's a 6-second gap now. It's updated, but Randall darts his way to turn 1 with De Vries following him, and now we can see how they all line up. All the pit stops have been completed, ladies and gentlemen, and it's Marcus Byfeldt who leads by 6 seconds on strategy and on pace, ahead of Adam Miles, who right now may not be able to make it back-to-back victories here today, but definitely a first and a second will move ahead of Byfeldt. And then Jeff Randall right now, well, he's in third. Can he hold on for another 4 minutes for this lap plus another 2 to bring on home a podium? Something he's not had in quite some time this season. Or will Arjun De Vries be able to steal it away for him, or will Miguel Casena be able to find a way to split the 2 and perhaps even get ahead of them? Well, on top of that, Nathan Wade and Daniel Otuga, they're not too far behind, 4 seconds off that group, and right now Otuga's fallen back behind Wade, and I suspect they're working together for 1 or 2 more laps, and after that all bets are off between these two as they make the way down the back stretch. We ride aboard here with your number 91 driver, and well, his patience absolutely admirable, no doubt about it, and we have seen Daniel Otuga take back-to-back victories this season earlier on, but here today he's going to be far from that, but he's definitely made a good job of picking up some valuable points in this round as he comes through 10 towards 11. Can he pick up even more points here off of Wade in front? Nathan Wade's not going to make it easy by any stretch of imagination as he makes contact there to the back of Wade's car, but immediately lifts off there. You could see Otuga as soon as he got close, he decides to back off there and let Wade take the place just in case something went wrong as well, and therefore gains nothing from it. Very fair racing there for Daniel Otuga. Jeff Randall, meanwhile, having to go defensive here down towards 1 versus De Vries. De Vries on the outside there, well, he's going to be ahead by nose, but Randall's now going to make his way ahead into the braking zone. There's only a finite amount of width they could go with there. Now into turn number 2. Randall ahead by 75% of the car. He will hold that position going through the fountain. And will the old Get Racing team driving one of the admins of this series right now, doing everything he can to hold on to this place. He's hold on for dear life as Serena Crusader here are all licking their lips together and thinking that podium does look very valuable. But first they've got to get past the Briton who's defending it. Getting ready for turn number 6. And Crusader, in fact, a lot closer now to De Vries by comparison, so therefore if Randall can get them to back into each other, that could really work out for him, but that's a lot easier said than done. Indeed, it's not easy in these skippies to essentially use the defensive strategy of get the 2 guys behind you to fight each other rather than fight you. Given the amount of tow these cars pick up of each other, the fact if you back yourself towards them, they gain an even bigger tow, and it can be just as much a hindrance as it can be a gain. 2 minutes left on the clock now. Our leader already at the hairpin, and I suspect we will only get 1 more lap after this. We might be able to squeeze in another. It's all going to come down to fine margins. Well, we'll wait and see. But as Randall leading this group through, here is Marcus Byfeldt. Now, will we see a white flag being waved here? We've got 1 minute 35 of the clock as he crosses the line. We do not have a white flag. We have got 2 more laps of racing to go. Now, is this going to cause some question marks to drivers? Because they do have fuel calculators. They have race length predictors as well as part of the technology they have in the pit lane, but I wonder whether some teams and some drivers have predicted this is a 20 lap race versus a 19 lap race, because if anyone's going to a 19 lap race at the moment, they are going to have to face a harsh reality very shortly, which is they are not seeing a checker flag the next time they come around, based on the fact there was no white flag on the start for this straight. Gordon van den Bergen is into the pits. I look at my content booth window. I think he's in for fuel. We'll have to wait and find out. He's not had a black flag or anything along those lines, and we're not aware of him picking up damage, but we will keep an eye on whether he stops, and if so, what they do in the car. But as Randall, De Vries and Crusader run together, meanwhile further back, Kevin Budge and Titus de Jong, they still fight. They're fighting over 12th at the moment, with a 2-second gap to Frankie D. And well, Van den Bergen, I can confirm the car is having some fuel put in it, so therefore he underfueled in the pit by quite a considerable margin, given he's had to spend the best part of 7 seconds stationary. So there the team might have got it wrong on the fuel gun originally, but meanwhile Budge and de Jong, they fight each other hard and fast, and Peter Suapanki just up the road holding Frankie D at bay and trying to make sure that Frankie D does not get a second top 10 of the day. And he's had 1 this season now, but I think for Frankie D, he wants a taste of 2 of them. Understandable there. Once you had 1, you want more. They're like Pringles in a way, podiums or indeed top 10 finishes, in the fact that you just want to keep eating up even more points. As they make the way down at the back straight, well, we see D now just staying on race 9 here, not looking for a potential move, and instead, I think, just being smart about it for now. But the next time round, he may not be, as our leader has already gone on to lap number 20, the final lap of this race, and as Marcus Byfeldt has made his way through, we got there a little bit quicker than originally planned. Well, you can see there a bit of a run deep from Suapanki, D in the draft, and he's going to get a lovely run here. How much speed is he going to build up on the run on down? Well, the answer is it's going to be at least 2 to 3 miles an hour more as he now pulls the outside. This will put him onto the inside for the next braking zone. And can he go all in for it? The answer is yes, he can. Can he make sure it counts now in towards the brakes? Well, that's going to be the plan. As in fact, there, so Hanky immediately backs off. Meanwhile, behind, it's going to be Budgen versus De Jong. De Jong on the inside there. Budgen's not going to have a response for this for now. He's going to have to wait. And meanwhile, between Nathan Wade and Miguel Casina through the fountain section, when Wade and Otuga, I should say, they have swapped back and forth several times. We will be able to get you a quick replay of that, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. And this was their battle for a brief moment, going down towards what was turn number 1. Otuga having the overspeed, but Wade immediately going defensive here into that braking zone. More in the end, Wade able to hold on to it as they got ready to go into the fountain. Too wide they enter the opening corner, and too wide they exited it. But in the end, who exactly got the upper hand on the other? And well, the answer was it was Nathan Wade with a better run out of the bend. But back to your live picture as we go. We have to quickly because here's your leader, and he's on his last quarter. Marcus Byfeldt, Adam Miles meanwhile in second, and then Jeff Randall still holding on for third as Arjun DeVries battling here with Miguel Casina. But as they make the way to the hairpin, it's going to be two away from them for a brief moment. But meanwhile, for Marcus Byfeldt, it is going to be victory in the feature race today. Head of Adam Miles by 4.7 seconds. Miles taking a win in the second now. Jeff Randall will be on the podium once again. Round off that podium there in third place, just ahead of Miguel Casina and Arjun DeVries. In the end, the Dutchman just lose out to the Spaniards right at the finish. Nathan Wade will hold on to 6th with George Matic coming on through. I think Daniel Otuga's run out of fuel, ladies and gentlemen, because he's dropped down. Matic takes 7th. Daniel Otuga, meanwhile, he's crawling to the line, but he just about squeezes across in 8th place at a wrinkle place here. And then Frankie D, who does make it back-to-back top 10s just ahead of Peter Sorbanki. And then it will be Titus de Jong, who comes home 12th just ahead of Kevin Budgen, with Klaus Biedermann, and then Christopher Crook round off that top 15, with Simon Wareham in 16th place, just ahead of Gordon van den Bergen. And in a twist of fate, ladies and gentlemen, well, I believe Christopher Garris Jr. had to come into the pit lane prematurely. And I believe it was because he was a lap down, but also because of the risk of fuel. But as Van den Bergen makes way out the final corner, well, he will take 17th place, and he will be your last lead lap finisher. Goodness me, what an end to this race. And, well, as our drivers begin to cool on down, well, he shows off, albeit has a bit of a moment at the wall there, and the team won't be too happy about that at Stickhead Racing, because that's going to be a new car required. But when we head to Australia in a week's time, but let's take a quick look back at that battle between Miguel Casina and Arjun DeVries. Now, this was the fight for 4th. Randall was safe at this point coming into turn 9. Of DeVries on the outside and onto the inside of turn number 10. But here, Casina did not give in. And knowing he would be on the inside of the hairpin, he went all in, made his way to that braking zone, and DeVries locked up there on the front right brake. And that was the differentiator. And whilst it was a drag race to the line in the end, well, for DeVries, he did not have a long enough run in order to be able to get the job done. And therefore, for Miguel Casina, it was a 4th place, well and truly earned. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we make our way back to your live circuit side pictures, and with all the drivers heading away into the pit lane, well, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And an absolutely fascinating second race today for round number 18 of the Skip Barber Community Trophy, Season 5, brought to you on iRacing here for the Long Beach Street Circuit, saw Marcus Byfeldt make amends for what was a difficult race number 1 with the 4th place start in the end, as a result of his 12th place finish in the sprint, seeing him take victory here in the feature, delivering, as he always does, on fuel saving and nailing the strategy. The Swedish driver there, 4.6 seconds ahead of his main rival for second place in the championship, but now Adam Miles will know, with first to second, he has moved into second, and he inches that little bit closer to Steff Herrmann, who has missed today, and therefore Herrmann will be now using a pair of drop score rounds. Jeff Randall finishing in third there for the Old Git Racer team, back on the podium after a long time away from it, but the British driver there able to repeat what he was able to do at Alton Park all those many rounds ago by making sure to use strategy and also his own pace to stay one step ahead of those who tried to take the podium from him. Speaking of which, Miguel Casina took 4th place there, the Spaniard only was a second behind, ending his race with a brilliant battle of Arjun DeVries, and DeVries there, whilst he struggled in race number 1, did not waste the opportunity to finish inside the top 5 in race number 2. Behind the Dutchman in 6th, it was Nathan Wade. We enjoyed a race-long battle with Daniel Otuga, but Otuga's lack of fuel towards the end of the race meant Wade was able to finish comfortably in 6th, just ahead of George Matuk, who stole that 7th place off of Daniel Otuga as he struggled to the line, and the privateer from Sweden in the end having to settle for 8th, knowing that today it didn't quite work out. Remco Pleister took 9th place for Agent Turtle Racing, 2 seconds clear of Frankie D, who makes it back-to-back top 10 finishes here today, his first top 10s, and what a day it's been for him, ahead of Peter Sorbanki, was best of the rest, couldn't quite hold off Frankie D in the end, but the Old Git Racing team driver was a second ahead of Titus de Jong, and the Raging Turtle at race number 90 was then followed up by Kevin Budgen, Klaus Biedermann and Christopher Crook, who completed the top 15. Behind the debutant, had a good day in the office. Simon Wareham there had a bit of a difficult day by comparison, taking 16th, and then it was Gordon van den Bergen in 17th place. He was your last lead lap finisher. Behind the stickhead racing car, it was a lap down to Christopher Garris Jr., and unfortunately it was retirements for Tom Payne, Dave Dawson, and also none other than Mark Beckhouse for his early retirement from the race. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, what a pair of races it has been, and the Long Beach Street Circuit has definitely delivered as it brings our time in the US of A for this season to a close. But the good news is we're not quite done here in California quite just yet, because we're going to take a brief breather, and when we come back in about 5 minutes' time, it will be to kick off our post-round interviews with our selection of drivers, and we look forward to seeing what they've got to say about racing around the streets of Long Beach. Until then, let us know what moments you've loved from today in the YouTube chat, and we will see you again very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time to kick off our post-round interviews. And well, it's definitely been a day of many highs for so many drivers, but for one in particular who we start off with, Jeff Randall, as he gets ready to join me now in the interview room. Well, let's talk about his story and the fact he's finally returned to the podium. Here he is. Well, Jeff, good evening to you, and what a solid day for yourself it's been. It's been some time since we've seen you able to land a double top 5 and a podium as well. It must feel as though you're back to your best.
I love that. It was a brilliant race. Just staying out of trouble. I must admit, everyone did brilliantly throughout turn one in both races. I was expecting there to be at least a couple of roadblocks, but there was nothing. So I think everyone did very well. Yeah, cracking though. Loved every second of it.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, like you say, there's always a risk when we race around such a narrow street circuit, such as Long Beach, that we may end up getting the rolling roadblock or the skippy block, if you will, but not quite so. But what we did get to see straight away in qualifying, the 3-lap close session, a 6th place from yourself. Were you happy with your qualifying?
I was hoping for top 5, to be honest. I think if I'd have done what I do in practice normally, I would have been top 5. I would have been possibly on pace for top 3 if I'd have done what I'm used to. I like this place, so I expected a little bit better than 6, but yeah, it's okay. I'll take it. It's a good field, so I won't complain.
All fair play. We'll take that and work with it. And you did indeed going into the sprint. We saw you gradually move forward to a 4th place finish in the end. Although I've got to admit, seeing all these skippies making their way through the fountain section for the first time, you were right in the thick of it. I mean, it must make your heart skip a beat.
Yeah, it's equally terrifying and sort of exciting all at the same time. There were quite a few side by side around the fountain on the first. Actually, not so much towards the back of the field there were, but yeah, the front guys all got in line, and it was pretty good. So yeah, that was safe to watch and safe to feel, safe to be involved in. Race 2, not so much. It was a bit scarier. But yeah, race 1 was very controlled, I think, from everyone.
Oh, 100%. And in the end, on race number 1, we saw you come close to the podium, albeit not quite able to snatch away what would be that 3rd place from Mark Beckhouse. But I get the feeling it was really just the precursor to a much bigger effort in race number 2.
Yeah, I mean, race 1 was good. We lost the front guys when I think George went a bit wide into turn 1. And that gave him a second gap, so trying to pull away. So I then just tried to stay in touch, and as much as I could, but there was an incident between George and Nathan, and I believe Marcus as well, around the fountain, which gave me a gap, so I was safe in P4. And then I just hoped that maybe Daniel and Mark Beckhouse might start scrapping, and they did. They were 5 seconds up the road. They had a couple of scraps, and then I was like within 0.8 going into the last couple of laps, but just couldn't get close enough to make a play for the podium in race 1. But still pleased with the effort and closing the gap. That was good.
Oh, 100%. I do have to ask as well, when Nathan Wade did have his big sideways moment into turn number 1 in race 1, he was running in the podium slots, and I don't know how he managed to do it. And I mean, from your perspective, it must look quite comical in a way. He had a big lock-up, goes sideways at turn 1, and then just naturally slots in directly behind you as if to say, I belong here by default.
It was. I mean, to watch that unfold, it was... you couldn't write that, I don't think, with that kind of script where he literally just parked it on the side and then got going again. Good effort not to go to put it in the wall as well. So yeah, it was fun to watch.
Oh, 100%. But fun to watch as well was race number 2. Now, you mentioned only moments ago being a bit hairy at the start of the race, and some of the replay footage has shown us that with 2 wides through the fountain, plus also on the open lap at the back end of the circuit. We saw you make some rather rapid progress, but I get the feeling this was really just to try and get you through a few drivers in preparation for that early pit stop.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was a big incident in front of me, which I kind of went straight through the middle of, which took me from, I think, about 12th into about 7th, I think, in 1 lap. So that was hugely helpful. And then thought, well, I'm going to try and be as strategic as possible here I don't want to sit and fight with people, so I thought I'm going to dive into the pit as early as possible. I saw that Adam dived in the lap before, so I thought, okay, he was 2.2 seconds behind when he went into the pits. So I thought, all right, if I get in the pits next lap, I did that. I managed to avoid Daniel. I don't know if you caught that on the broadcast, who clipped the wall and sort of went flying into the air as he went into the pits. So I dived into the pits, managed to avoid Daniel, and then came out side by side with Adam, which was absolutely perfect. And then I thought, okay, we'll just tuck in behind Adam and try and grab our way through the field. I was hoping to stay with him right the way through, but then Ariane came out of the pits and split the two of us. So from there, it was going to be tricky to try and stay with Adam, but all the same, it was a cracking race. Pleased with the strategy, pleased with the drive.
Oh, 100%. And thank you for telling us about what happened with Daniel Otuga. We didn't realise that he'd had a big moment with the pit wall, so that explains why he dropped down and you're able to benefit to a degree. But, well, well done for avoiding what was his wayward car, and in the end, it all clicked together. Albeit, last couple of laps, we did see, of course, Arjun De Vries and also what was Miguel Cosena both get very close to you at the end of the strategy. Were you worried that they might be able to steal the podium away from you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ariane was looking pretty quick. He openly admitted to it being a difficult track for him, and the only place that he was finding that he could get close was going into T1. So it was just a case of positioning the car in the right place and making it as hard as possible for him to go all the way around the outside of T1, which is a brave move to do. He did try it. We left each other enough room. Then I had the drive going into the fountain. That was the only real go that he had. But towards the end of the final lap, Miguel was scrapping with Ariane, so that gave me enough breathing room to nick the podium or hold on to the podium.
Well, it was a valiant effort in the end from them to try and take it off you, but you managed to hold on to the podium with a brilliant effort of your own. So first podium sometime, and that's some big points on the board. And it concludes our tour of the US. Next up, 3 venues in Australia. First of them of which, Phillip Island. What can we expect from you there?
I love Phillip Island. It's one of my favourites. I've had all sorts of moments there. Some people will never let it go. Perhaps you want to ask Adam about that. But yeah, it's a cracking track. I feel like I've got plenty of pace there, so I've got high hopes for Phillip Island.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we look forward to seeing what you can do at Phillip Island in a week's time. And just before I let you go, Jeff, of course, at this point, we'd normally ask you if there's anyone you were to give a shout out or mention to. We're going to do things a little bit different today. I have to ask you this. If someone was looking to get on the grid and a Skippy tomorrow, what would be the one bit of advice you would give them?
Just don't even think about it. Do it. Without a doubt. Just do it. It's the best car on the iRacing service by far. But there is one shout out I'd love to do if I can.
Sure, go for it.
And that is a shout out to Holly, who is recovering. Dennis is looking after her. A big shout out to Holly. I hope Holly makes a full recovery, and we'd like to see Dennis back on track as soon as Holly's recovered.
Oh, 100%. I'm with you on that, Jeff. We do want to see Dennis back out on track, and we do hope Holly, his wonderful dog, indeed, while the mascots of the series are away, he's all doing well and on the road to recovery. But with that, we'll leave it there for yourself, Jeff. Thank you for joining me in the interview. As always, it has been a pleasure. We'll see you at Phillip Island. But until then, have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks, Paul.
So hearing there from a very happy Jeff Randall today, ladies and gentlemen. The old Git Racing team driver absolutely loving it here at Long Beach. Albeit, of course, talking out there some of the hairier and scarier moments of what was none other than excuse me, the second race, as we do see briefly there, we see what happened to Daniel Otuga clipping the inside barrier, and it all went very wrong for him. Well, that explains that story. We've actually caught it now. Thank you to Jeff for pointing that out, and we avoided that, but also, as well as the scares of race number 2, delivering a very solid drive in race number 1 to make his way forward, and the momentum is coming with him, and I suspect at Phillip Island, the circuit he loves, he may just be able to make it another podium or two. But we've got plenty more interviews to come, ladies and gentlemen, so we're not going to stop there. Let's take a bit of a breather. We'll be back in about 10 seconds for our second interview of the day. And so, ladies and gentlemen, now brings me great pleasure to have join us in the interview room the man who has moved into second in the championship as a result of his performances today. It is none other than Adam Miles, who now joins me in the interview room. Good evening to you, Adam, and well, points are precious, as they always say, but here you didn't make sure to squander any of them. Pole position, a win in race 1 and the second in race number 2, an almost perfect day.
Yep, yeah, a couple of incident races and a fastest lap. So, I mean, apart from the P2 and I think a fastest lap in the second one, it was pretty much perfect. Kept it out the walls and kept 4 wheels on the car. So, yeah, really good 2 rounds.
Oh, 100%. Now, of course, caveating it a bit with the fact that Steff Herrmann absent today, but we always have drop scores. They are always a fault that plays out, but you can only do what you can with what you've got out there. And in qualifying, pole position by almost 6/10. I mean, that's got to be one of your best laps of the season.
Yeah, not quite sure. I mean, I'd been thinking in practice when I'd got down to 31.4, 31.5 or something in practice. Thought, well, maybe there's a 31 in qualifying, but yeah, the last lap just really came together. Riding some of these curbs in, I guess it's like turn 5 and 8, I think the ones where you try and really run them hard, and just you get lucky sometimes. The car will bounce and you have to come off throttle, or sometimes the car will just glide over them, and I think that final lap I just had the luck of the curbs, and also put together a good lap. So yeah, I was surprised that I had that margin.
Well, perhaps a surprising margin, but then going into the first race, we did see yourself and Nathan Wade have a bit of a gentleman's agreement to work together, like you do in Skippy Racing, to be fair, and the two of you started to pull away. Were you quite happy of how that played out?
I was, although I don't know how much of a gentleman's agreement it was. I know Nathan's not going to do an interview, but I feel like he told me actually just in the green room he was struggling to hang on. So I think actually it was more a case of I got the gap out to about 7/10. The slipstream was much weaker at that distance, and then it was 8/10, and then it was 9/10, and I was trying to break the toe on the straights, just trying to do whatever I could to maintain the gap. So I was pushing hard, he was pushing hard, and I just managed to get the gap out to about 0.8, 0.9 when he made the mistake into turn 1, and then I was fine after that.
Well, it all worked out fine after that, and of course the mistake, like you say, really bought you plenty of space then to work with, and a nice smooth win for race number 1. Then coming on to the feature race score, starting 15th, a lot of 2 wides in front of you on the opening couple of laps. And it looked like you played it very safe at first in the feature race.
Yeah, this isn't the track where you want to be trying to make too many moves early on, particularly turn 1 sketchy, fountain sketchy. It's just, and then it's single file for a few corners, and I just needed the race to settle down a little bit and hope that the pack stayed close to Marcus out front, which by the time it all happened, I think there was an accident actually on lap 2. Tom Payne spun, Gordon von Bergen hit him, then carried on into the apex of the corner. I had to drive around him, and I hit the wall, and I had my fingers crossed to not get a meatball there, because I wasn't sure if I could get to the pit stop lap with the meatball. So fortunately it didn't. It might have affected the car a little bit, but by the time all that had happened, I think it was 8.5, 9 seconds off the lead, and Marcus had checked out. So I was kind of looking down the field thinking, okay, if I stop early, where can I get to? But figured if Marcus had any sort of reasonable pace, he'd be able to hang on up front.
Oh, that's absolutely fair, and appreciate you giving us the perspective as to what happened and what your adjusted target was in terms of pushing towards second. Now, as per usual, we did see you come in as the earliest driver to pit, and it did look as though it was the right call there. Was there any moment, and this is perhaps a more general question, do you ever have any of those moments when you go for these undercut strategies where doubt sinks and you start to think to yourself, actually, have I made the right call?
Sometimes if I'm not sure what the lap total lap count is going to be. And I've always calculated beforehand, how many laps is it going to be, how many laps can I do on a tank, what's the earliest lap I can stop. Sometimes it's right on the edge, and you're thinking, oh, I don't know if this is going to be a 19 or a 20 lap race. If I stop on lap 4, then I'm putting myself in danger in case the race goes 1 lap long. So this time I didn't. I stayed out an extra lap. I think I could probably have pitted on lap 4, and I might have been okay. But yeah, just played it safe, stayed out an extra lap, and it did mean that I came out just near Jeff. I think I had to sort of lose a little bit of time in T1 as Jeff rejoined, and then a few laps later Arjan rejoined in turn 1, lost a little bit more time, but managed to get past them both. So yeah, no big issues on this one, but it has been known to happen where I've cut it maybe a little bit too fine and had to fuel save.
All fair play, because it was very close between whether we were going to see what was the 20th lap or go 19, but we went the 1 extra in the end in terms of the race. But for yourself, of course, coming out ahead of Jeff Randall and gradually pulling away, it looked so in the end everything was sealed up for the 2nd place. I mean, driving around Long Beach, even at that point, you can never take your eye off the walls for a minute, or should I say the eye off the road.
Yeah, exactly. Particularly when you've got your eye on fastest lap as well, you're sort of weighing the bonus points against potential disaster if you put it in the wall. And there were a couple of sketchy moments where I tried braking a little bit too late in turn 1, and the car was sliding through the corner, but I managed to hang on to it. So I've been known to push for fastest lap sometimes and lose races because of it, and so I ultimately didn't get it. I think Daniel got the fastest lap in the 2nd one, but yeah, you certainly don't switch off around Long Beach, otherwise you're gonna. For me, it's probably an apex wall. I'm trying to cut apexes as close as humanly possible, and I did it in practice. Just turned in a little too early, car gripped, broke the front right suspension, and then you're straight to the pit. So yeah, it's a tricky track to maintain focus on.
Oh, 100%, no doubt about that. And I'm sure everyone will agree if you tune in today how close everyone got towards, yourself included. Now, of course, with this result, you move to 2nd in the championship ahead of Marcus Byfeldt. 6 rounds remain. We begin our tour of Australia to wrap up the season next week. Phillip Island is up first. What are your thoughts on the circuit?
I enjoy it. We had the Gippies went to their official race was in Phillip Island, I think 2 weeks ago, and had a lot of fun driving there. It is a draftier track, so there's going to be a lot of pack racing, a lot of 3 wides, 4 wides down the straight. So I'll have to figure out what my strategy is going to be, particularly in the reverse grid race, whether I want to try and join a pack to move back up to the front, or just try and do my own thing. But Phillip Island's not a great track for doing your own thing. I mean, there are 2 or 3 leapfrogging positions around the lap, so if you get a good pack together, you can certainly be quicker than even the quickest driver. So I'll have to play that by ear and see who's around me and how far back I am at the pit stop. But I enjoy the track. It's good fun.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we look forward to seeing whether you have to play the game or work with the pack or be the quickest driver in a week's time. But just before we let you go, normally at this point we'd ask you if there's anyone you want to give a shout out to, but we're going to change it up a bit today. Question for you: if someone right now is watching and thinking of joining the Skippies, they've never driven them before, what would be your number 1 tip?
Oh, I mean, it's a car that rewards momentum. You don't make time the Skippy by being the latest of the late breakers and trying to stamp the throttle and get on power. It's a car that doesn't have a lot of power, so focus on just being smooth. You don't have to brake late. I'm 50 or 60% braking force in most braking zones, so just try and keep your minimum speed up and be smooth on the wheel. Don't try and you can't hurry lap time out of a Skippy. Just try and be smooth.
I like it. Smooth and smart with the craft, and that's where the speed comes from. Adam, it's been an absolute pleasure having you join me in the interview. Congratulations today on another mammoth haul point and another winner's part of it. We'll see you at Phillip Island to see whether you can keep that momentum going and close Steff Herrmann down. But until then, have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks, Paul.
So hearing that, ladies and gentlemen, from none other than Adam Miles. I'm very happy with his performance today, but also talking out there the fact that whilst qualifying really clicked together, he was a little bit surprised by the margin by which he took pole in terms of how large it was, but still nailed it together. And in the sprint race, after it went wrong for Nathan Wade, really feeling as though he was the man just to take that victory. It was his. In the feature race, meanwhile, with everything that happened in the open laps, talking out there was some damage on the car, and that did in the end change up the strategy to a degree in terms of the fact not when he was going to pit, but realising the fact his goal was really second rather than first, and he was able to do it just about even when he did come out of the pit lane, well, come out to what was Jeff Randall being side by side when Randall left the pit, but in the end he was able to get ahead and then put the hammer down to make sure second was his. Missing out on the fastest lap by a small margin, but of course, talking about the risk versus reward, those walls looming so large, and whilst it is worth a bonus point, always keep in mind the bigger picture, which is the win or the second place, is worth so much more and not wanting to throw it away. But every point is precious, and at Phillip Island, he's got an interesting decision to make. Does he try to be number one on pace, or does he sacrifice his pace to play the game of strategic saving? Well, we'll see at Phillip Island, because I'll tell you one thing, Adam Miles definitely will come up with a plan between now and then. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got even more interviews to come. We'll be right back in approximately 10 seconds' time for our third interview of the night. And so, ladies and gentlemen, for our third interview of the day, we're going to be going to none other than Arjan de Vriend, or I do believe it's Arjen de Vriend. Not 100% on name pronunciations there, but either way, we'll do our best for him, and let's bring him in the interview room to hear what he's got to say. Good evening to you, Arjen, and well, what a day from yourself. Enjoying plenty of battling, and in the end, being rewarded with a top 5 in the feature, even if the sprint race was a little bit slower by comparison.
Yes, I can't repeat the words that I said in the other room, but yeah, it wasn't. It was the first time that I drove this track in like 10 years or something, and well, to say that I enjoy it is not the right description. So, but turn 1, 2, and 3 were fun.
Oh, fair play. Well, the first couple of quarters are fun, and I presume then this is perhaps specific to Long Beach rather than street circuits in general.
Correct. I mean, Long Beach, I like I mean, turn 1, 2, 3, it was a bit flowy, and then you get these 90-degree kind of corners, and it's a bit boring, to be honest.
Oh, fair play. Well, a bit of a boring circuit perhaps for yourself, but still, qualifying 14th overall in a grid of 21 today. Perhaps not the strongest qualifying performance, but I suspect you're hoping for more in the race.
Yeah, though in qualifying, I on my third lap, I hit the wall on the last turn on the inside. I was taking it a bit too tight. I would have been 4th or 5th, I think, with the time I actually did. So that was a bit of a shame. So I think I had the speeds sort of to be around there, and in the feature race, it sort of showed, but then again, there are a few guys there that know this track a bit better, have been driving a bit more lately, and are quite a lot quicker. But yeah, we'll see next week. It's a track I actually know, so it's going to be better, I think.
Oh, fair play. It was a shame we didn't get to see you deliver that qualifying lap you mentioned there, because I think it would have been great to see you up front in the sprint, but still, the sprint race then was a bit more about, say, positioning for the feature. Although I can imagine when you're further back in the field on a street circuit, anywhere in the field, if you've got a car in front, it's always dangerous if the car in front gets it wrong. But when you've got multiple cars in front going too wide through, say, the fountain section, every 5 seconds you must be asking yourself, have they crashed? Have they gone sideways? Have I got to worry about something in front of me?
Yeah, luckily with this tires locking up and stuff, you see some smoke coming off, so you can sort of see it just before you arrive to a corner, but it was a bit tricky. I had a few moments where they were side by side and 1 or 2 spun out. And then I think in the first race, I hit Remco, I think, from behind. So my wing was a bit bent. Couldn't really keep up in the draft, or I mean, I could keep up in the draft, but couldn't get the overspeed. So there was basically no point in fighting. So there was a bit of a boring race in the sense of do my laps, keep in the draft, and not lose positions. And then with the reverse grid in the second race, I had at least a decent position to start from.
Now, coming on to that, a decent starting spot of none other than what would have been at 5th place, and that's where you finished. early on in the race, we did see you really try to work together with some of the drivers around you to make up the time, including none other than what was Marcus Byfeldt and also Klaus Biedermann. Were you surprised or were you happy with where it ended up as a strategy to be in the fight for third at the end?
Yeah, it was okay. I mean, Marcus was really quick. I couldn't follow him. He drove away from me. And then I think, I can't remember who I had behind me in the beginning. Maybe it was Klaus, but
yes,
he was a bit slower. So I could sort of, I was basically getting a bit away from him, but Marcus was getting away from me. And then basically waiting for, well, when to pit and all that kind of stuff. And then the rejoin of the pit was actually very fun, coming in between Adam and Geoff. So that was fun. I was kind of hoping I could get it in or keep it in front of Geoff, but I couldn't. Adam was immediately gone. Tried to fight a bit, but yeah, in the end lost 2 places in that fight, but it's okay.
well, unfortunate to lose the places, but still, we did see you almost have a shot at what was the third place, but in the end, a battle between yourself and Miguel Korsenka and the final lap. Side by side, the two of you through the last couple of quarters. I mean, going side by side through that hairpin at the very end there, just tell us what it's like being on the outside. I can imagine you've got to put so much steering lock in and just hope the car will turn.
I left enough space in the sense of not crashing out, and then it didn't turn. And then I needed to go fully off throttle, fully brake, and try to still work it around, and then basically lost it there. The outside line there is, well, not the right line.
Oh, indeed. Well, not the right line, but still a 5th place, some solid points, and in the end, leaving Long Beach behind. It may not be your favourite circuit, but coming up next, of course, Phillip Island. Surely that's going to be a much happier circuit for you.
Yes, I know it very well. I've done it a lot in the past. I've always been quick there, so we'll see what happens next week.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we look forward to seeing what you can do in Australia, starting with Phillip Island in a week's time. But just as we get ready to let you go, a bit of a different question today from what we'd normally ask. I have to ask, if you could add any circuit to the Skip Racing calendar, what would it be?
Of this easy, Road Atlanta.
Oh, fair play. Love it. A bit of a roller coaster ride there. Well, Arjen, we'll leave it there. And the thought of Road Atlanta perhaps one day making its way onto the schedule. I'm sure Geoff is lifting right now. But with that, congratulations today on your performances at Long Beach. And we will see you in a week's time at Phillip Island. So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from our Dutch privateer of Arjen de Vries. And, well, very honest there with his opinion of the Long Beach circuit, and talking about the fact he enjoys turns 1, 2 and 3, but after that the 90-degree right-handers and the way you have to use the curbs, not quite up to his cup of tea perhaps, as the saying would go, but still getting on with the job as best he could, and very unfortunate then not to have that valid final lap with contact with the wall. And you do have to imagine if he had been able to put his final lap together, which he mentioned there would have perhaps been good enough for around 5th or 6th place, could we have seen a very different story for him today? Well, the story he got in the end was a sprint race where he wasn't able to make progress, and he mentioned the fact he just could not move forward with the way the racing was going. Not that there was a critique of the racing, but that's just the way it goes around a street circuit. But in the feature, he was allowed to more show his pace the way he wanted to, but even then, in a way, left in the shadow a little bit of Marcus Byfeldt, as we see in the replay footage here. And it really meant it's been a round today where it's not quite clicked. He's much more looking forward to Phillip Island in a week's time, and mentioning the fact if he could pick any circuit to go to, it's an easy one. Straight away, Road Atlanta, right in his mind there. Well, I do imagine if we go to Road Atlanta one day, if we haven't before, it definitely could be a round of racing where we'd see him absolutely fly high. But still, Australia awaits him, and he's looking forward to the final 6 rounds of the championship. And with that, we've got one more interview to come, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be back very shortly to get our final interview of the day underway. And so for our final interview of the night, ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined now in the interview room by none other than George Mattock. Good evening to you, George, and well, what a challenging day it's been in some respects, but to be fair, you love a good challenge out there. 16th in the sprint after an incident between yourself and I believe it was none other than what was Marcus Byfeldt, but in the feature race, redemption up to 7th place. You've had fun out there tonight.
Hi, Paul. Yeah, it was a bit of a crazy race, to be honest. Not what I expected at all coming into this. Had pretty good pace actually, and was looking forward to it, and was playing around with the strategy, and we had it nailed down. But then, yeah, the first heat race had massive net code with Marcus. There's quite a sizable gap between our cars, and fortunately, we both got turned around, which is a bit strange considering I'm in the UK obviously, and he's in Sweden. But yeah, that completely ruined it, and I had huge damage, about a second and a half a lap down, and then I was coughing across the line. So I deliberately underfueled in the first race because you could do it on less fuel, but with the drag and with no slipstream, I couldn't fuel save. So yeah, finished 16th. I was 15th coming out of the last corner, and I was like, this is perfect. And then I started coughing. I came across the line, which is, yeah, ruined my plan. And I started 16th. So it was just damage limitation. But to be fair, we made up how many places? Like 9 places in the, or more than that, however many places in the feature race. So overall, it was damage limitation, but an enjoyable race nonetheless.
Oh, 100%. And talking a little bit about qualifying, we did see you in the end sneak your way onto the third row of the grid right at the end of the session. It looked like you were getting quicker and quicker. I get the feeling that if we'd given you a couple more laps, you would have been going even faster.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually quite comfortable with the quality pace. I didn't fully get all the time that I wanted. I think it might have been better to do 2 warm-up laps. In the second lap, I didn't really go much faster, but the third lap, all of a sudden, you're turning on the tyres and everything starts coming towards you. But yeah, I mean, qualifying's important here because track position is key. It's not as easy as it looks to pass, even though you've got 2 long straights. But yeah, I'm happy with the qualifying. I need to obviously extract that final 2/10. I think I dropped 2/10 in the first corner and then couldn't pull it back. But yeah, I know it's very important. It's something I need to continue to work on, and it's going to be important ahead of next week. I've never driven Phillip Island, so I need to buy the track first and then try and get some laps in my free time. I think I've got 1 hour to play with next week, so we'll see how that goes.
Well, fair play. We'll come on to Phillip Island and that shortly. But just before we do, of course, we talked a little bit about the sprint race where it went wrong, the net code between yourself and Marcus Byfeldt. So we won't dwell on that any longer. And I do feel for you with regards to spluttering over line. And thank you for explaining what happened there. The feature race, meanwhile. So 16th is where you started. Given that, did that change the way you came into the race and strategy at all? Knowing that now you don't have the benefit of starting at the front of the field. You've got it all to do from outside the top 15.
Yeah, my strategy went out the window, to be honest. When I finished 16th, I thought I was going to finish 15th, and I was like, this is perfect. I can just pump in quality laps. Obviously, didn't finish 15th, got pipped on the line, run out of fuel, so I started 16th. That one position in the heat race cost me 15 places starting position, which is pretty terrible. But yeah, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to just drive past people. We had some very quick people in front. My strategy was to go really long originally and then pit as my tank is very empty, but couldn't do that, so I had to sort of play it by ear. I saw Adam and Nathan and Kevin come in. I was in between them, and I thought, no, I'm going to try and go for another lap. In theory, in hindsight, I should have pitted with them because I just got held up in the pack and was going so slow, with like 2 seconds a lap slower. So when I came out the box, I was like 4 seconds behind Nathan, and I was within his draft when we came into the pits. So yeah, that was a bit of damage limitation really after that, and just trying to clear cars, and was on my own really after the pit stop. Obviously, could have been very different had I started on pole. I mean, look at Marcus and how he had a great race. It could have been anybody who started towards the front of the grid. He could have just had decent pace and pulled away, but wasn't to be this time. But yeah, looking forward to the next one.
Oh, 100%. And like you say, I think that's the right attitude to have, which is it wasn't to be here, but there's still more rounds of racing to come. And to be fair, 2 difficult rounds don't stop you from really building that momentum that you have this season. Phillip Island's next, and as you mentioned a moment ago, you've not raced there before, and you've only got an hour. So for the viewers at home, when you're going to be learning that hour, what's the thing you're prioritising most to get yourself up to speed?
It's going to be all about lines, I think, and just learning the track. Where's the braking points? Where's the racing line? And also just trying to think about how it's going to play out in the race. I've heard there's a long home straight, so You kind of don't want to be leading out of that last corner. I've just heard from one of the other guys on the last lap. So track position is going to be important, and obviously you need to be fast. Otherwise, if you're not fast, you're not going to be in the front pack fighting for the win. I think if you get your pace close enough to the top guys, within a couple of tenths, you're going to be in the mix, and that'll be the aim. But obviously, doing that in such a short period of time is going to be very, very difficult. But I like a challenge. That's why I came back to the Skippies, and so far it's been very enjoyable and rewarding. And hopefully that continues next week at Phillip Island.
Oh, indeed. And we look forward to seeing you rise that challenge and see if you can put yourself right back up there. And just as I get ready to let you go, George, I would just like to ask, as always, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a shout out to on the broadcast?
Yourself, everybody watching, and yeah, thank you to everyone who's tuned in and for the good racing. Thanks a lot.
And George, we have to say a big thank you to you for joining me in the interview room. It's been a pleasure as always to have a chat with you, and good to see you enjoying the racing, even if it hasn't quite clicked today. I'm sure something's going to click in the right direction for you at Phillip Island, and we'll see you up there. Good luck with the practice, and we will see you there in a week's time.
See you next week. Thanks, mate.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from George Mattock, and you can definitely hear it in his voice a little bit dejected and downbeat after this one. It's been a round or a pair of rounds where things haven't quite gone right, and it's really, you could say, wait, it's a bit of a gut punch. When you qualify well in fifth, obviously the incident that happened between him and Marcus Byfeldt, as he mentioned there, and I think he has gone through it with some of the other drivers in the cool-down room with regards to potential netcode, which we didn't quite see on the broadcast, but to be fair, we only see the angles we see at the time. And obviously, the stewards have a lot more angles available to them. But the point being, that incident in itself, painful as it was, would not amount as much to the pain as he had at the end of the race. Because, of course, the upside of having a difficult sprint race is if you finish inside the top 15, you start towards the front of the field in race number 2. But because he'd underfueled the car intentionally to give himself a lighter car to go attacking in race 1 on the basis he would save the fuel, he then lost out. And that explains why we saw him splutter across the finish line to 16th, not 15th. And at that point, that was the devastating part, because suddenly all the plan had just been completely thrown out the window, and in the feature race he had to completely tear it all up and start again, and he did so. Very happy with his performance there to make up the 9 places that he did, but understandably, when it hasn't worked out and a plan's gone completely astray, well, for George Mattock, like anybody, it is a very frustrating day. But he's now got his sights set on learning Phillip Island, and if he can learn it quickly, well, he's definitely going to be finding himself batting with the very best out there once again, and we definitely look forward to seeing that, because it's not quite the same. We don't have George Mattock towards the front of the field each and every round of racing. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that brings our interviews to a close. A huge thank you to all 4 of our drivers for joining me for an interview this evening. Well, let's give you a recap of who exactly we spoke to today. And as we can see, we opened up with Jeff Randall, the old Git Racing team driver, who we haven't heard from for some time, talking about his very happy day of racing and the fact there was almost a double podium, but very happy to be back on the podium and have a double top 5. Then we came to Adam Miles, who really was the man to beat on 1 lap pace today. Surprised a little bit about his qualifying pole position compared to his roles in terms of the pace gap, but he definitely was very happy with the win in the sprint, and also 9, despite it all going slightly backwards in what was the feature race with the damage he picked up. The second there was the best he could achieve. Then we heard from Arjen de Vries, and well, the Dutchman there really talking about his perhaps slight dislike for the Long Beach circuit compared to others, but the fact he pushed through it and delivered himself a happy 5th place in the feature race, knowing the podium was almost in his grasp. And then we just heard from George Mattock, who had a day, he had a plan, it all went wrong and upside down after a brilliant qualifying session in the sprint race, but he came back together and managed to pull out a 7th place there in the final race. Thank you to all of them for joining me in the interview room, and congratulations to them all for their performances, and we look forward to plenty more interviews in the rounds remaining. But with that, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you've enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the Skip Barber Community Trophy, or about how you can be on the grid either in the remainder of this season, because you can join at any time, alternatively you're perhaps thinking about Season 6 and you want to get to grips with the Skippy, well, do join the official Discord. Invite link available there, the beating heart of the community, and I'm going to show you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're an esports professional all the way through to a rookie, you will be very warmly received. We are always happy here to have even more drivers join the wonderful Skip Barber Community Trophy series. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our sponsors, who of course start with none other than Musical Money. And tell you a little bit more about Musical Money, Well, Musical Money is the quick, easy and safe way to turn your unwanted musical equipment into money, because no matter what your equipment may be, if you want to sell it, Musical Money is there to buy it, thereby taking the hassle out of selling your unwanted musical equipment. And with their groundbreaking website, as shown on screen, well, selling your musical equipment could not be easier for a website which has put the user experience at the core of its design. So why not check out www.musical-money.co.uk today to find out more. We'd also like to take a moment to say a huge thank you to our other sponsor this series, and that is the Old Git Racing Team. Now, established in 2024, the Old Git Racing Team aims to prove that age is just a number in the world of racing. Headed by Jeff Randall, who you heard from earlier today, the team races in multiple disciplines, but is especially dedicated to the Skip Barber Formula 2000 machine. Regardless of the car, they aim to keep their racing fair and close, whilst also respecting the fact that mistakes can happen to even the very best. And if you'd like to know more about the team, be sure to head to their official Twitch channel, which is on the screen now, and that being found at none other than at twitch.tv/oldgitracer, where you can check out their racing, including their onboard perspectives from the Skip Barber Community Trophy. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, a huge thank you to our sponsors. And now we look ahead to next time, because our time in the US of A is complete. And now only 6 rounds remain. We make our way to Australia for those final 6 rounds. The first 2 of them in a week's time. On Sunday, the 22nd of February 2026, will be at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, located on the island from which it takes its name. It is a circuit which has to be seen to be believed, not just for the views, but also its incredible sweeping bends, and also that long start-finish straight, which nobody wants to be the leader on until the final turn of the lap. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have been at the Skip Barber Community Trophy, which you've been catching all the race action today. We wrap it up there in the US of A, and well, until next time, well, I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. You've been tuning to a Paul Walsh production, and until next week, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay on track. Good night.